Oh, I think I just saw Kurt walk by.
All right, good evening. Opening this meeting of the Tree Preservation Planning Committee for Monday, September 29th, 2025. Possibly this is also a virtual meeting, but right now we have members only in the room. So we do have a quorum and we're rounding up some stray members from the hallway. So we'll hope that our other members will join as they are available. Okay, so I think our minutes are not actually available. Is that correct?
No, there, she sent them, yeah, today,
Yeah. I thought it was-
Okay,
along with the revised packet, there was a revised packet.
all
Yeah,
right.
with the,
I am
some
remiss. I have not
modifications.
checked my town email for the majority of the day today, so I missed
Lucky
that.
you, Heidi.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Work was kind of a zoo today. Anyway, all right, well, without me, I haven't read the minutes, so, without me, oh, hey, Kurt. Kurt, did you have a chance to look at the minutes? No, that's fine, I didn't either. We're gonna postpone approval of the minutes, I think. Gabby, I didn't have a chance to read them,
Yeah.
and so maybe we can just postpone until next
Next
time.
week,
I don't have a ton of people here anyway. It'd be good to know that everyone has read them. So let's postpone that. Which means that we're gonna go into number 2 on our agenda, which is discuss updates for the bylaw review. And I'd love to start with Ed and Erica filling us in on their discussion of invasive and native considerations for our bylaw language.
So, Ed and I spoke, last week, end of last week, I think. And basically, we just discovered that discussed the two definitions, invasive, native, and we talked about potentially adding a third definition. In terms of native, the only thing we did was make one word change from intervention to introduction, but for all 3 definitions, we added a little bit of context, and the context is in blue on the, a little bit of a rationale, an explanation as to, why it's important that an invasive tree has a definition and what that means, same with native. And then because not all trees fall into either one of those 2 categories, we thought of adding a third definition, which is non-native trees, which are trees that are basically, we plant for a variety of reasons, but they're not native, but they're not invasive. So that's basically, I don't know if everybody had a chance to read that, but it was just basically expanding the definitions a bit and doing some very small wordsmithing.
Okay, and this is relevant, but it's relevant specific to the tree bylaw because we want to define what needs to be kept or protected and what could be taken away if the homeowner chose.
Yeah.
And the situations.
Right, so,
And didn't you say you would go by the Massachusetts prohibited plant list?
yes, and we're still doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. We put in each, the first 2 definitions, invasive and native, we used the sources that Ed had previously specified. In the case of invasives, it's the prohibited plant list, Massachusetts prohibited plant list, which is ever changing. So we don't necessarily want to specifically call them out, at least not in the definitions part. And same goes with the native tree definition according to the Forest Trees of Massachusetts manual, which is also a DCR publication, Massachusetts DCR publication. I think the important thing, the other discussion we had was just to continue the discussion on whether or not invasive trees should be that are in the tree yard, whether those trees should be counted as protected or just kind of omitted from any kind of guidance. And I think what we settled on was invasive trees are not protected, we're not telling anybody to take them down, we're leaving it up to the homeowner or the developer. So if there's an invasive tree in a tree yard and the developer wants to take it down, fine, they're gonna have to,
No mitigation required.
no mitigation required. But if, they want to leave it up because it's one of the only, mature shade trees on the property, that's fine too. Until such regulation comes down through Massachusetts to start taking them down, whatever, but that's not gonna happen. So that's what we did. Did I miss anything?
No, I just wanted to, your point, no mitigation required. I wanted to make sure that that was a group discussion, because I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm not opposed to it. So I just want to make sure that was the consensus from the group.
I don't think we got there. I don't
Okay,
think we
so-
actually
Me too.
got there.
So
Punted to
mean,
you, actually. Make sure we understood the definition.
well, I mean, if it was up to me, I think what Gabby and I heard from my colleague in Newton was that if it's invasive or not, they want the bylaw is to protect as many trees as possible. So they don't give any exemption for an invasive tree. They want to save trees. So
Great.
I think that's a discussion we should have. And I think I was on the fence at first saying, well, invasive would be a good thing, or invasive, but why bother getting in that business? We want to save as
We
many
want to
trees as
save as many trees
possible.
as possible.
And I look at my own property, I have a lot of trees, but I have 3 Norway maples that are beautiful, that I've shaped, that I hardly work on them every year, and they're on the invasive list, but if they were my only 3 trees, then that's a different story. I'd probably want to save those, so.
Do we want to maybe limit the caliber, like if the invasive tree reaches a certain caliber? Or
I'm open
would
to
that be too
discussion.
detailed?
I think that and I'm a kind of on the fence too. I kind of think let's leave it up to the developer in this case, because invasive trees are invasive for a reason. They're prohibited for a reason, because they, and in the case of Norway maples, not only do they just seed prolifically, but they go into, they create an environment where nothing really can grow underneath them. Native plants get crowded out. They're taking over, and native understory trees can't, so if they escape cultivation, which in this case, we're talking about suburban yards, but if they escape and they're into the forest, then it's a problem. So I personally, I mean, I'm on the fence too, because I don't think we should encourage people to take them down, but it's really not a sad day if a Norway maple comes down and then it's, replanted with something else, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Fred?
So if it's replanted with something else, then maybe the mitigation piece is important.
Right, so to keep it as a protected tree, because then it gets mitigated, either
Right.
with new plantings or, so that was the kind of the discussion.
So how do they do it? So you mentioned that in Newton, they do not have exemptions for, so how about in Wellesley? Do they have exemptions for for invasives?
I think so.
I believe so.
Fred, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe people could be more. There's a lot of context to whether keeping a Norway maple makes sense, if it's on a slope and it's stabilizing soil, if it's the only shade tree around, and so on and so on. I mean, so there's maybe the public trees like that would be the ones where we could think about these extenuating circumstances and make a judgment. But I think if we exempt them from the private ones, it kind of says we're trying to be reasonable about these restrictions, we're not, it's a compromise.
I think generally speaking, we don't want to ask people to take down any trees that aren't actually necessary.
Well, I don't think we
Also,
would be.
if there are mitigation,
Exactly.
as a developer, it wouldn't make sense to take it down and then add more cost to what I have to do. So,
So you're saying that would,
yeah,
So
I'm not taking down trees because I want to take down trees. if I don't have to take down trees and I can save myself money because I won't have to mitigate,
Mhm.
then I'm not gonna take it down.
Makes sense.
So that means exempt them from the,
But my point is it doesn't really matter.
it doesn't, yeah, that, I mean, it's a little bit like, we don't know how they would react, how the
Yeah,
developers would react,
Right.
whether or not clarifying.
But we know how the public will react and what the homeowners will want. They don't want to be told what to do with their private trees. So if we, the more that we can not do that,
Mhm.
I think the easier it will be to get it passed.
I think it reads as we're trying to be thoughtful about this and be reasonable if we don't demand that people replace an invasive tree on their property.
Yeah, to help the tree and everything. I mean,
So
yeah.
by not demand, so
So in other words,
not making
do
it a
exempt.
protected tree,
Yes.
exempting it as,
Yeah.
exempting invasive trees as a protected tree, which is basically, we're all saying the same thing, because that's what I
just leave them.
just either leave them, but if you exempt them, then the developers can take them down at their discretion without mitigation,
Without mitigation.
without mitigation. Or
So
if
that
you
does not
don't protect them, if you do protect them, then if they take them down, then there's mitigation. So it's just really,
I mean,
I think it's a net loss. I mean, I think if you let people take them down and there's no expectation to plant them back, then they
you're
just-
not gonna
you're
plant
not gonna
anything
get new
else.
ones back.
And also, I think that then, do we really wanna be in the business of, I mean, on the one hand, I know we've got definitions for what's invasive and what's not, but to the extent there's any, there'll be arguments that could be brought up about, well, this should be on the invasive list, you need to make an exception for this one, you know, I don't know, I think as much as we wanna, and I think we are talking reasonable, I think people will be pretty impressed that we're only talking about certain parts of the lot, right? That's something that not everyone, because they haven't read other towns' bylaws and really understanding how it works. I think it's all about how we present it. I think simplicity will go far further than that level of information, because frankly, then if I'm taking some, you know, when it's a developer, I guess if you're getting an arborist anywhere, they can tell you, but it's much easier for someone to like look out and be like, well, okay, these are gonna be impacted, not like I have to go get an arborist to tell me which of these count and which don't. I think,
That's a fair point.
and like the public also, though, the flip side is that every time a tree comes down, even when you've got a sick one on public land, people freak out,
Mhm.
right? And so we're gonna end up saying, well, I thought we passed the bylaw.
Mhm.
Well,
And,
that's-
so
you
with-
know,
Save them all.
I would just say that, look, if we start, we've talked about how the first is like, I think it would be hard to go back and add them in. Right, to like make more protected. I know that, yes, last week they said, you know, each time they amend, they tend to get stricter, but I don't know that. I think, you know, maybe that's setbacks or other, and we're not gonna be amending anytime soon. It doesn't feel like, so I think it is, you know, if we,
okay, so in the red line currently, when we get past the definitions into non-applicability, which is page 4, there's a line that says invasive tree species. So we're basically talking about striking that out. Because we're not making invasive tree species non-applicable. We are keeping them
if it
applicable.
is a tree
If
in
it's
the
a
place
tree
that's
in the
not sick
tree yard,
or whatever.
that's not exempt from one of the other reasons stated. So I just want to make sure that we're all, you know, clear on that, because we're not
It's not that they
restricting,
can't take them down, it's just that, you
they
know.
have to mitigate.
Right, and that's not the end of the work, right? If it's a developer, they build it into the cost and ultimately, right, like, I mean, we don't wanna go crazy, but if we're sticking with there's only so many. If it's an individual, make them think twice, like, and so there is maybe a handful, but they'll be more likely to replant when they take it down.
And they won't be able to replant with an invasive species, because those are
Right.
prohibited, you
So
can't
it's
buy
double
them.
bonus.
Right. So you're actually kind of properly incentivizing, like for if I lived there and I was doing an expand, like I said, wouldn't apply to most of those, but if, yeah, I think that's the right way to go.
But that means that, I mean, like, from my perspective, that means there's gonna be a lot more, you know, like, we want less invasive trees.
But
We
we
do
just
want
don't
them
want
to be
more
replaced
trees.
with good trees, but we're, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I understand where I understand why, especially with the background that you have, but I think here for legislating, right?
Mhm.
Like straightforwardness and creating a culture at the Harvest Festival and beyond of like, let's just start paying attention to the world around us and
Yes.
making it somewhere that looks nice, right? As a
Right.
starting point. And then if people really get into it, they're gonna start doing that research on their own. I think we're
So-
not starting, if we were starting a community of our own, right? Like we should absolutely encourage like no invasive plantings.
But if
right?
we're really gonna take this completely out, then do we even need the definitions of any, at all?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that's important to just acknowledge what is and what isn't for education purposes, because then, as you say, if people are interested, they'll
okay,
be more aware.
Right,
I mean,
it's
I
aware-
agree.
awareness. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, but you
It's-
still
it's
have to
although-
have the emergency projects.
It's
and stuff.
important for the
Replanting.
list of what you can replant.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to.
That's true.
Right, as long as
Right.
you're still using the definition somewhere else, then.
And they do have to provide a mitigation plan. And within that
Sorry.
mitigation plan, they would need to address what type of species they're using. Non-native, native.
Well, if they're gonna put they're not gonna actually say non-native or native, they're gonna say, white pine or whatever. So I don't think it really matters much to the developers whether they're planting native or not native, unless that's their business model, which there are some who make their landscape plans much more eco-focused.
All right,
It's a niche.
so do we have consensus that we are going to strike the non-applicability letter A clause on page 4? Just want
Is
to make
it-
sure that everyone in this room is in agreement.
No, letter A, it's letter D.
The top of
Or
page
even on
Yeah.
page 2, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
you're right.
reference
Not
five.
hazardous,
Yes.
it's invasive. My
Yeah.
apologies, yes.
It's listed earlier too.
Page 2, yeah,
Yeah.
on protected tree. It's the last part of protected tree. You want to scratch that
For the
as well.
definition,
right?
yeah.
Invasive tree shall not be considered. We do want to protect. We want to protect every tree.
Okay,
Regardless,
Yeah.
native, non-native, ornamental, invasive, save them all. If you gotta take them down, we get mitigation. And we replace with better
And
species.
then we give you education on how to
okay.
replace them responsibly.
I think that's what you were raising last meeting. When we started that conversation, then sort of stopped and moved on.
Yeah, so I think we have consensus.
I'm okay with the simple approach.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
there,
diffusion
there's
approach
some.
is just, we want to save as many trees as possible. We don't want to be in the business of wholesale removal just because of invasive, because that encourages
Yeah.
bad things. We're here to save trees, period. Invasive, non-invasive, we're here to save trees.
Well, I hope I didn't take this group on a tangent that didn't need to be
No, we're
discussed.
fine.
I
No,
enjoy
I
your
think it's-
tangent.
It's
It's
worth
important.
thinking through, right?
I
And
like
feel
that.
more
Out on a
confident in-
limb.
I like that.
Oh.
All right, so how does this work, Gabby? Did we leave off and the comments are new or are they old?
Anything in blue is anything in a blue strike through or comment is new, based on feedback that was received at the last meeting.
Okay,
We could I know we talked about holding off on definitions.
Yeah.
right.
We could start back at applicability. We might want to start there just because that was a major topic at the last discussion. And I'd
Mhm.
like to make sure that the revision reflects what the group was expecting to see.
Yeah, okay, great. Attendee, we need to make sure that.
Oh, that's our sustainability intern.
Oh,
Ashanti.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, super. All right, so starting then with applicability, which is on page 4. Let's just set ourselves maybe a time limit for this because we do have other things to get to and we want to make sure to leave time. So do we want to spend 45 minutes on this till 8 o'clock? and then begin,
On the bylaw, not just applicability.
no.
Yeah, okay.
Good God. I hope we can move faster than that.
We already talked about it at length
Yeah, yeah,
last
yeah.
time.
And then we can just move us, get as far as we go, and then we can call it a day with that, and then move on to some of our other subjects. Okay, great. All right, so applicability, page 4.
So these are the 4 permits that I believe were of interest to the group, and I did check with Joe, our building commissioner, about overlapping with what stormwater has, and that's where the section D comes in for the addition and alteration that increases the building footprint over of 25% or more. So the idea is if someone pulls one of these permits, they're either checking a box that says, no, I don't have any trees within the tree yard that would be affected by this project, or if they're saying yes, then they'll be going through the sequence of the rest of the process that we'll be discussing later.
Mayor, so in our meeting at the Conservation Commission meeting, I was curious about to understand the process, like, for example, say Kirk is gonna have a project, he goes into the system, he files for a permit. And what I understand from what we discussed with the commission was that once a certain number of things are triggered, all of the departments receive that information for review before the permit is issued. Am I correct? Okay, so
All
then,
the applicable divisions in part, not all, but like engineering, look at the plans, water sewer drains, depends on what's going on, but
okay,
historically, I don't see any of that because Fox and Forestry are in the construction business, but
okay. So I guess the reason why I'm speaking behind the scenes is because I think sometimes there are opportunities to miss things, especially when sometimes in the Conservation Commission, we might pick up on things that not necessarily other departments might pick up. And what I'm thinking is, reverse engineering this is when that permit goes in, when Kirk submits and that permit goes in to review, I don't know, they're doing a demo, they're going to do whatever. There's a step of people that review. So within that process, what I'm thinking is, are there any removal of trees? And once that box is checked, then that triggers whatever department eventually will review it. But what I'm thinking is, right now, the way it sits is the permit, whether it's a street permit, demo permit, new construction permit, all of these permits, like you mentioned, are applied to in the system, but only a handful of people will see it. Sometimes Deb mentioned she always gets copied on these, right? Is that what Deb mentioned?
Yeah.
For most part, she gets to see and review, and then she picks, if there's something, she won't sign off, she won't do that check. I think that's what she mentioned,
That
right?
sounds familiar.
So there is a possibility that if they only apply for notice of intent, that it will not trigger. I guess that's where I'm going. If somebody comes in and does a RDN, like request for determination, because it's directly as an NOI or an RD, this won't be triggered. So I wanna caution that at some point, if this bylaw does go in effect, somewhere in the system will need to update it so it triggers whoever eventually is going to review it. But I think there might be a gap, whereas if Deb gets, we can confirm with Deb, but if Deb gets a request for determination, for example, Kirk or I'm gonna, I don't know, do something in my backyard, and I'm not sure if it triggers the Wetlands Protection Act, so I'm going to request a determination for review. But during that review, what I'm doing also triggers this. If that's not there, it will it will not be flagged.
But say they come in for an RDN and we say, yes, you're gonna have to go before the commission, file for a permit to do whatever you're doing. Okay. Then they know they have to start filling these out. I need a street, because now it's like, now I have to go get permission to build this deck that's gonna trigger the Wetlands Protection Act. So through that RDN is helping them get to the building permit in the street. I would hope.
That is true, but if the request for determination has no impact on wetlands, but it does have an impact on the trees because it's within that envelope, it flies. You
Well,
follow?
are you just saying that they'll find out too late? and they may
Yes,
be
Right,
upset?
That's
that might
what
be
I'm
part of their calculus if they had to take
But
down
it's-
trees because of
It's not that
something.
that won't, it's not that it would happen and nobody would
Right.
know, like, that the
You
trees would
still-
come down with no mitigation. It's more of a consumer
Yeah.
friendly process that we need to think about. At what point, how early in the process? Should there be anything before the opening of a permit?
Well-
I'm Googling the Eatonstown website about these, like, what an
I think
ending.
the only
is.
situation in which that applies is a homeowner doing it on their own. I mean, a developer should be checking the bylaws. They don't.
But
Oh,
still,
I
the
see.
world of landscaping is probably what we're talking about, so you're altering the landscape in some way, and you wouldn't be pulling one of these.
You wouldn't
permits, so
be pulling one of those.
You're putting hardscape down, you're.
So should we add?
No,
that?
but we talked about land altering.
Yeah, the street permit, if you are bringing any kind of equipment, it's going over our
So
right
if
of
you're
way.
digging
that
a
you
patio-
should be pulling a street permit in those instances. Not
Oh, is
everybody
that a
does
street
that.
You're
but-
digging a patio
Yeah.
or laying a walkway
Yeah.
or laying a new, well,
Even if you're doing,
enlarging
like-
a driveway, you would be using some kind of equipment.
So my,
I'm curious if all landscape projects pull a permit for a street.
I don't think everybody's.
I
pulling
doubt
permit.
when they tore down the house across the street from me, they cut down every tree in the yard before they touched the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there anything that requires people now to it's a deal to interact with the town's offices before they cut down trees?
But if
There's no
what kind of
look back.
equipment did they bring out, Fred? Because if they were bringing large equipment, they should have pulled a street permit when they were coming to cut down those trees. Even if they didn't touch the house, they should have pulled a street permit.
And is that widely known in the industry?
And that's why back to the world of landscaping, I think is not.
I don't know if it's not.
That's not in
You-
touch with
you
this.
could-
defer to
What
staff.
then, is there another
So
easy
they may.
one to put in?
You would
here?
So
defer to
that's what I
staff.
would
What if you
say,
guys
yeah,
say-
so
But
I
aren't
would
we
say
talking
so.
about applicability here and
Yes,
not
so-
implement, I mean, like,
No, we
later
are,
on
because
is-
the reason I bring it up is
Like,
because
you're
we
gonna
don't
to
have
mitigate in that case,
Yeah.
right? So you.
commission, conservation commission,
Say, hey,
and there's that gap. So
note
if
to
I'm going to
everyone.
do
What's the
some,
suggestion that we add?
so I
There's been a
suggest,
change. I mean, you would announce it
I
yourselves, like,
suggest
There's been a change in.
when you are applying for either a request for determination,
Building in the street.
anything
Yeah,
having
that's a
to
3x4.
do with a commission review.
Oh, yeah.
Because whether it's a private owner or a developer, they would have to go before the commission to review. May not fall within the WPA, but it may fall within the tree preservation
Yeah,
bylaw.
So Kurt, we were just having a little side conversation in which Kurt was saying, well, I would defer to my subcontractors. But ultimately, if one of your subcontractors broke the bylaw or didn't adhere to the bylaw, you were saying that you agree, you would be responsible. So in a situation like that, I mean, presumably you would send out a note to your subcontractors, hey, the rules in Needham have changed. Heads up, like comply with the bylaw. And worst case, I mean, although obviously we want the trees to be saved, but worst case, the contractor would still be responsible for mitigation. If the trees were cut down ahead of time or, you know, they failed to
I guess we
apply
never-
for
we
a
always
street
do it
opening permit.
beforehand. So when we apply for the demo permit, we're bond, we have everything. So I guess that
Before you-
situation has never popped up for us.
Right. I guess it's a question of smaller outfits or landscape, maybe companies versus landscape architects, maybe.
but I think aren't we trying to focus on tear downs and clear cutting. I mean, that's
Right, I
where
mean,
the
we could get this
majority
to
of,
Make it applicable for any tree to be, I mean, we could pull a Cambridge and say, any tree needs to have permission to be cut down, and then we'd have,
Well, but also we're
don't
talking
think
about
we want
protecting
that,
the
though.
trees in the tree
Yeah.
yard,
right.
right? So we're not talking about the majority of the lot, we're talking about the edges. So if you're putting on a patio or some smaller thing, I mean, presumably you, I would think 99% would be outside of the tree yard.
I think there's
So
something to
I
be
did-
said for being very explicit and just saying what you just said. You know, option A, removal of a tree within
correct,
the tree envelope. B, from various permits.
that's
you know,
actually-
Right, so that's,
Just be clear.
Yeah, so
That's
it's
what I-
less about the.
exactly.
Okay,
triggering
so
solution.
adding that
so maybe
light
an
tree within the tree
applicability.
yard.
I guess the only
yeah,
thing
making
I
that the
wanna-
first one.
The only thing I wanna check with that though is, like, right now, if you have any tree within the tree yard, you're still submitting this mitigation plan because it indicates where those trees are located and how you will preserve them if you are going to keep them. And if you specify that this only applies for removal of trees, we'll lose those other protected trees as part of that. Like, they won't have to indicate how they're gonna include protection measures for the trees they're keeping.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And it also, if you put that as a condition, then every tree that gets, that's just it basically says that anytime you want to cut down a tree in a tree yard, whether or not you're just a homeowner or not, it triggers the thing, and we're trying to not do that.
I
We're
think you
trying
could
not to
say-
get to the
Newton's
every,
doing that.
I thought,
Wait.
if it's
I'm
in the tree
confused.
yard, we are, if
But-
it's not in the tree yard.
but
I mean,
only
90%
for-
of what we're looking at
Only
is for
certain-
Right,
demolition.
but if a homeowner decides to have an arborist come and cut one tree down, that's in the tree yard, for whatever reasons, we agreed not to
Okay. Okay.
penalize them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe
Right?
it's like applicable to anyone who has a protected tree within the tree yard, because we define protected tree. Only certain types of trees are protected. We have
Yes.
like the caliber limitation and things like that. So does
So if
that,
you have a sick tree in the tree yard, just take care of it. Nobody wants
That's
that.
not,
But that still doesn't, it's like, it's not mutually include, I think either you can say a protected tree and cut down a protected tree and the tree in the tree yard and one of these following things. Because we don't want to have, I thought we agreed that we don't want to be telling every homeowner in town
Mhm.
that they can't cut down any protected trees.
Yep.
Because then you're basically, requiring every homeowner to submit a tree plan every time they,
Right, we're trying to stick to
Yeah.
one of these major
Yeah.
events.
right, but you did nail it with the either, if
Either-
you're gonna have it in, it has to then be that and test.
And,
Because
and.
otherwise it becomes, whether intentionally or inadvertently, becomes this trigger automatically, and so to your point, it's not achieving the
Right.
spirit of. Cause it is
Yeah.
just somebody randomly taking a tree down in their yard.
Then, given this full circleness, the question is, do we need to add that bullet point with the and or not? Because it's not really doing any real work if you're adding the and, as I understand it, the clarity. Because I think what we're trying to say is, if we want, the way it's written now is, as I understand it, I have to reread everything together, but you have to pay attention to this bylaw if A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that you're gonna end up having to mitigate, or, if you say, but you check a box or something, right? I am not tearing down any trees. Great, you're done, right? Or taking down any trees. So, but the law still applies. So I think we have to remember that the protected tree definitions affect where we're really controlling homeowners' choices. But if there are no scenarios that we care about, that don't involve one of those permits unless they're flagrantly violating the rules, we don't want any gray areas, then I think we're okay as is. And I think the question I came up from the landscaping is, in practice, and to Kurt, like, is there realistically, if a developer does, because I've seen it too, right? Like, right or wrong, goes in and cuts 4 trees down, can that be done at all legally without one of those 4 permits? Because if it can, then I think we need to, if they're allowed to do it before a demolition permit, And the question is, the street permit, I just don't know enough about. Like, if there's no way they could do something like that without a street permit, unless they're truly just violating the rules, then I think we're good. If there are a lot of scenarios that you could be like, hey, I'm gonna play the game of just cut them all down. We have the look back period, maybe that solves it.
Doesn't that sort of depend on is like the size of the lot? Like if there's a house on a lot where the tree yard will be untouched, but the 3 trees are in the body of the yard, whether or not, I mean, whether or not they're a developer or the homeowner, can't they cut those down? As
Right,
it
but
stands right
that's-
now?
That's
yeah,
what I
so
thought.
that's fine.
But so the question is, like, if the trees are not in the tree yard, then yeah, they can.
But, yeah, so are there any instances where the trees would be in the tree yard realistically, and one of these would not be pulled? That's the scenario that we have to think about that is not covered right now, and if we think that, that's the 0.01%, then like, we're good.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't believe street permits are being pulled
No.
by landscaping companies.
Or tree companies.
So
Or
maybe
tree
we just
company,
need
that doesn't
something,
happen.
I just
for
remember
the
because
tree yard
last year
in
I
that
had a
context.
tree that fell.
Yeah.
And the tree company came and I'm sure they didn't pull.
No, they never pull.
In 2 hours, it's gone.
So
Like,
is there,
I
do
didn't
we
is
care
there
about
any
it?
way that's not super cumbersome?
Right.
And creating a whole lot of headaches and bureaucracy to get the word, I mean, to have a conversation with the owner before that happens. I don't know.
So I'm
Because we don't
thinking,
want to, sorry, I was just, because I think what you're saying is that we don't want to accidentally go the other way and make it so that even if you're not gonna have to mitigate because the tree's sick, that you have to go through some whole process. Because that's the scenario that would be bad by accident.
Yeah.
so in Newton and Wellesley, do they pull tree permits?
Street permits?
Tree removal permits?
So it's the same as this, where like when they're pulling a building permit, et cetera, that's triggering, this mitigation plan being submitted to them.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
like
it's
a separate
not,
permit.
it's not a separate permit.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but I think Cambridge might have a separate permit. I guess the question is, how much in depth we wanna go. There's always gonna be something that's going to fall through the cracks.
But if it's
So-
practice that they don't pull them, then we have to have something.
Right, so I
Otherwise,
think
it's
that,
just gonna continue.
so I think with these 4, in my opinion, it pretty much covers the bigger, more, I don't wanna use the term destructive, not more disturbance of the areas, but I guess for me, the most important piece is that we have a way to do that balance check. So in this process, when they pull a street permit, is there something that checks off on the tree? In the demo, does it check off the tree? In the new construction, does it check off the
Well, then you
tree?
just do it like Fred's example. You remove the trees before you do any of this.
Yeah.
I mean,
We need,
that's the workaround, right?
Could a letter go out whenever there's a sale of property, a letter to the new owner that just says, here's how it works now?
That would
It's
be
not something
very
that the
hard.
town has access to.
The town doesn't have access to sales records? It's public. it's a-
I mean, we don't have staff who pause through
Yeah,
recent
I got it.
sales and then sends a letter.
There's
That's
no
just
way
not-
you have
that's
that
not a
automatically
automated feature. that we-
So currently, contractors, tree contractors, do they need to be registered with the town to do work in the town?
I'm thinking that if it's part of a demolition, if it's part of a action on a property that's gonna result in eventually one of these permits, we can hold the contractor
Isn't that
responsible for
the
the
one,
work
like,
themselves.
the look back, the 2-year look back?
Yeah,
or
so
something?
I don't think that this is actually as much of an issue as we're
Yeah.
making it out to
Okay.
be. Either the
way that
contractor is
these
gonna be
rules
held
write, There's no
responsible.
way that I won't be able to do anything without pulling a tree
And,
permit.
yeah, and if it is really just landscape work, if someone's expanding their patio or something and one tree comes down, these are not the people we're looking for.
Right.
This is like so much the 20% and not the 80% that we're after. So I'm willing to like,
Leave it as.
We can see.
yeah, let it,
Draft it.
Is-
well.
I mean,
We'll blame
mean-
Kurt if it's.
That's what it said.
Can we make sure, the one thing that we should do is, I was doing a word search and having trouble finding it, so look back, just so we see how it's worded, to make sure it is covering that, because I think that's our cushion, right? for
Yeah,
reviewers.
that's the
Because
catch-all
that's,
for
you
those
know,
people who.
I always look for the exceptions, right? And if we've got that as our back, we're good.
Right, but,
It's the
but we also know
implementing
that
the look back, yes.
reputable, we also know that reputable contractors are gonna
Yeah.
pull the demo permit before
Absolutely.
sending their tree subcontractors out. So it'll be,
Why?
Where's that,
Why
what's
you-
that
why you
assumption
think so?
though?
Yeah.
No.
I'm not-
didn't you
And
just say that that's how it
Typically,
works?
that's how we do it.
Well,
But,
yeah, but the other, the other.
no, but like,
developers,
they may
that's
not, if it's not required that you do that,
We
like,
are-
I trust that most folks will if that's like
Hmm.
a requirement, but.
Yeah, it's, I mean, most, I'm gonna make an assumption that most contractors are gonna abide by the rules. This is now gonna be a bylaw in Needham. So once that is established, they will check the bylaws, they will work within them.
Well, if it's a bylaw, then you have to.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get approval on the demo permit.
If, and then
Yeah.
by,
If you've
by that
messed up.
And then
time, like,
if you flaunt that, then they'll get you on the look back and then you'll be.
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the
Yeah.
mitigant is if having a solid look back, because
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
even if somebody is trying to circumvent and be nefarious in how they, sort of pace things and say, oh, we're not gonna pull the demo permit, we're gonna clear cut all these trees, then the key then fallback has to be the
so
look back.
certainly we
Or
need to
you're
have the
telling
look
the
back,
homeowner to take the trees down. That's what we've heard.
but even then, in 2 years, that's gonna catch any kind of.
Yeah, okay, but then are the trees gone? I mean, we
I
have
know,
to
how
have
do
the.
you enforce the look back? How do you like implement the look
Yeah,
back?
yeah, pull that up, because I'm
We
trying
just
to
have to make
find
sure
it.
that something's
It's in,
captured,
it's
so
in,
that it doesn't happen. That's the point.
it's in a
It's too
few,
late if
Plan
it's already.
review and permit issuance.
yeah, it's in a few, sections, so it's in the definition of protected tree.
That's a
Um,
little different, I think.
Are you looking for, like, how do we define the 12 months? Or what are you looking
Yeah.
for?
We're looking for the language that currently expresses
Look
what the
permit.
look back period involves.
Yeah, I think that's plan
It's
review
12
and permit,
Yeah, 12 months prior to the application.
tree protection, okay, so if a permit. Regulations.
So
Right,
shall
so they're
not.
saying it's 12 months. So it's 3A, right? And so that's basically saying if someone did that, goes in, I mean, it's not our ideal, right? Goes in and does that. When, I think what Kurt was saying is that they're not gonna be able to just completely hide it because they'll have to, declare like their demo permit, unless they wait over a year, will trigger this and they'll have to define the trees that were protected, they'll already be gone. But the law would require them to declare them essentially, and then they either have to mitigate. Or, so I mean, I think while in a
It's not
Perfect.
perfect.
world.
It's not
we
It's not
would-
perfect,
but
but we're
it is
hoping that
pro-
people
we
will
are
abide by
protecting,
the
it is
law.
still,
Well,
so that was my only thing, is just
why
the
does it
street
say
permits.
shall not?
So the first paragraph
But then the
is what we were
following,
talking about, but I
right.
think this is about it, and then I have to read it more carefully, but I think this is if you just, like, if you've done that, but then you make a small change, I think.
And where is this in the
It's not a
document?
problem.
What section is it?
Plan review and permit issuance.
Okay, yeah.
It's,
Can we put it up
page
front?
7.
So if you've done this.
Well, it's in the
it's
definition of
permit
protected tree,
requirement.
which is in there.
the one
Yeah,
of
because
the-
we're still in applicability, and so
Unless
it's
it
the
is-
implementation, the review and permit
This is saying you have to do
issuances
it 4
that's.
times, 'cause if you're doing.
I
new
do think
construction
one
as well as
issue I hadn't thought about is
I think
when
it's
I was talking to Joe about this, like, we're assuming there's a check box in the permit process that they're gonna indicate is there a protected tree on the property, or sorry, is there a protected tree within the tree yard, or was there a protected tree within 12 months of the
As
application?
long as that,
And if they check yes, then it's going to add. If they check no, then there's not going to be any review. So we're assuming
Okay,
that
sure.
people will
Be honest.
proceed.
And
with
if
it.
they
The
lie
form says
and
the
get
12
caught
months.
lying, what happens?
Right.
Does
Uh,
building stops
I mean,
Does that
until,
require, do you go out and take a look?
I would look at the plans, I would do a plan review, kind of the mute model, I don't know if I'd go out to every property, I don't think well, unless
No,
someone
it's-
takes over my full-time job.
But you'd have to check the permits that say that yes, this applies, and the ones that don't to verify, or you're going off the ones that say yes. And if they do say yes, hopefully they're indicating on their plan exactly where those trees that were removed 12 months ago.
And if we are
Right.
finding that there is flagrant abuse of this
Yeah.
law,
Yeah.
then that will have to be a
the
follow-up.
public
Yeah.
I
will
don't think that
be reporting.
we're not gonna be able to
Make it perfect.
make it perfect, and we're not gonna be able to control everyone's behavior. Let's proceed with reasonable
Good faith.
skepticism
Right.
that people will follow.
No, I
the law.
think that is all great, and I think one of the things that clarified it, and you clearly already had it in your head, was the order of operations and how it will appear. So I think when we roll this out, and or even for ourselves.
We have a document attached here.
Okay.
that-
No, I
that
saw, I
starts
think,
to work
okay.
on
And I think
that.
you bring up a great
Because I think
point.
then people will feel like they understand it.
Yeah.
But if we're like, I think some of this is assessing like human nature and like weighing. And if they don't know the flow of things that, oh, if I check no, it's not going to Ed.
Bingo.
They don't know, you know what I mean? And so that still creates, they're like, okay, I'm sort of, you know, it's not as serious as an affidavit, but I'm signing this thing saying no. And if who knows what happens if I get caught being flagrantly violating this thing, you know. it's-
well, maybe we
it's
should
something-
put something somewhere about
Yes.
if you flagrantly violate this.
Yeah.
You can
then
jeopardize your
you can
permits.
yeah, your permits might
Future
be,
ability to secure a permit in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna work on fees and we can talk about enforceability
You're
then.
right.
Let's
That's-
try and make it past applicability.
Okay.
Let me just one follow-up.
A for applicant.
Okay,
One
so,
follow-up thought,
yes.
On
one
the
more.
applicability, just, if the gap in this, and I'll go back to, it's the tree removal groups that are out there. I think part of the education campaign on this front is educating the folks that are taking down these trees. So I think a concerted effort by the town to reach out to
Yes, that will be.
Stumpy's and Harvey Graymont and Munson Lane and you know, the dozen big landscapers in the
Yes,
area.
absolutely, and hunters.
That's a
and
critical-
contractors, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will have, you know,
I
as
think
a,
They're
as a
gonna be
launch.
subcontracting it out to
Yes,
Stumpy's, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Understood, but ultimately, the contractor is the one managing the project. Probably, and so they're gonna be held responsible in the end.
Yeah.
So, so it needs to go out to all, but
Yeah.
yes, for sure, that it should go out to everyone.
The homeowners might be hiring directly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I have them all on my speed dial, all those guys.
There
Um,
aren't
Okay,
that many with big cranes. I mean,
Yeah.
So just want to make sure, so we did not want to add in additional language.
I think we decided it wasn't
Okay, not
necessary.
All right, great.
Okay,
Thank you.
so non-applicability.
The only change here, just remove that additional reference to invasive that we had missed previously.
in
And then we'll take out D based on the feedback from the committee.
the- Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on this section?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the tree replacement revolving fund.
Yeah, I think that's where we had left off at the last meeting.
Okay, we made it to where we were. at last meeting. Really daunting, all right. Okay, does anybody have any comments on this section?
It's good on my end.
I see in the replanting of trees, but there's a comment about the 3-inch caliper minimum.
Oh, yes. yeah, I think this was a question last time. And Ed and I chatted a little bit about it, but to our knowledge, there's not an industry standard. I thought 1.5 to 2 inch could be sufficient if the group wanted to go lower.
So, if I could ask Ed, isn't the main risk with the smaller trees getting whacked with lawnmowers and herbivores girdling the trunks and all that sort of thing? I mean, so how much does a larger caliper protect a tree's survival? I mean, I know we're gonna ask.
I'd say it's minimal. I'd say the smaller the better. Just like a baby, you wanna get it in as small as possible, get it acclimated and let it go. And you're right, I mean,
Yeah.
two turkeys can roost in these trees, they can break, there's a lot of risk, but I'd say the smaller the better. Why be restrictive?
Yeah,
Especially when it's much easier to move 1.5, 2 inch bare root trees, you can whip them up, and you start talking about 3 inch, now they're balled and burlap, it becomes more of a hassle on the contractor. And balled and burlap trees, as we know, mostly die because they come in with a big clay ball. Landscapers usually don't peel the clay off and plant them right, so I'd say make it as small as possible. If
I feel like
everyone's good
that's
with that.
really counterintuitive. I did not know that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, within the mitigation plan, there should be ways to protect it for survivability, I guess.
Well, we have
We
a
have
Yeah, so I think that would,
sign off after 2 years.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's-
similar to what we do at the conservation, a 2-year monitoring.
yeah.
Oscar?
Doctor. Do you, do you,
Tree doctor.
is there what's the difference in growth to some respectable canopy you mentioned? From a 1.5 to 2 versus a 3? Growth. Just what's
The time to get there?
timeline.
Depends on the
for a
tree.
1.5 to 2 versus a 3. Because I'm actually thinking,
I'd say it's the same again.
Okay.
You know, I think a 3 inch tree in ball and burlap might stunt out for a year or two. A 1 inch, 2 inch bare root might take off in 2
Mhm.
years. So I'd say.
second, okay,
No,
second
that's
question.
that's the common belief in the industry, I think, yeah.
Second question is, okay, so that you're basically saying. You're making the
As
argument
long as they
for
live in 2
keep them
years, that's
small
all we
and
really
more
care.
maneuverable.
Let's make it.
So you're
as
saying
simple
take
as
out that section of the minimum requirement, minimum caliper of 3 inches.
I'd reduce it.
Well,
Just
change
change
it.
it.
Reduce it to 2?
So
Or
is there any?
1.5 to 2. I mean,
If you're doing a 1-for-1 replacement though, and you take down 20 caliper trees, right?
That's a lot of
Or
trees.
you have options to put in.
Choke it out, could I put in a
Yeah.
4-inch caliper tree if I
Sure.
wanted to? Because, you know, rather
Because
than
you might
having
not have enough room.
21-inch.
21-inch trees.
Right, you don't wanna
Build
have
your
like a
back
whole
back,
bunch of
probably
little
better
things.
off, but especially if you're limited on space, because you're right, we
Which
don't
is
want
a lot
people
to do.
choking out properties just to make a limit.
So there's some discretion there, so how do we deal with
Alright,
that?
well,
2 years, we look back and say what lived and say, whoa, you know, half these trees died because you crammed them in, so.
And
So does
cover
that-
them up with mulch.
Can this be part of the mitigation plan? So that you're gonna see if he's putting 20.5 or 2, it's gonna go, that makes no sense, because he's gonna have to show mature
Spacing, yeah.
canopies.
But it
So-
goes through the approval process, right?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, there's
Just
work
making
there
sure
to
that that's in the
evaluate whether or
plan.
not this is a legitimate plan.
Yeah.
Is that already in the mitigation measures as opposed to just saying we will do it? Like, is there not, is that part of the map? I remember seeing the map for like
Yeah.
what's coming down.
Before we go to that. So you're saying that preferably the 3 inches is not a standard,
No standard.
so it's arbitrary for us to pick a 3 inch.
Totally
Okay.
arbitrary.
The same way that it's arbitrary for us to pick a 1.5 inch.
Can we just say 2?
You could.
So I guess my question is, what's the difference between a 2 and a 3?
well, he's
Size,
just listed it.
better
cost,
too.
He says that the
money,
3 inches
cost,
start to
yeah.
be
Installation
balled
maneuverability.
and clayed.
And that might
Just-
survive more, but isn't.
I mean,
If
and
you get
also in
bigger,
terms of,
You can have less species to choose from, because nursery, I mean, again, the
Right.
smaller, you can pick bare root, and you can
Then
pick
I
almost
would
any
go-
species in the world.
then I
That's
would go
worth
for
something to
2.
me.
Then I would vote for 2. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
If it's easier.
I'm inclined to follow Ed's recommendation.
Yeah.
which is
which is 1.5.
1.5,
Two, yep.
1.5 to 2.
Can we make it contingent on an approved plan or, mitigation plan or something
Well,
so
all
that
of this
people
Well,
are.
the-
contingent.
Yeah,
Of course,
the
but-
replanting has to be included within the plan, so it'll
Okay.
include species,
Yeah.
caliber.
So if
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
So we
anything
just-
crazy.
The cost is less, the variety is
Yeah.
increased,
So
the
it's
survivability is increased. I think 1.5 sounds fine. I mean, it does feel counterintuitive and you
The
know,
1.5
yeah, we
is
want
This,
them to look impressive, I
Yeah,
guess.
at the beginning, it's gonna
But
be a
the-
little.
this
If-
is a
if-
1.5.
Yeah, it can be 2 or
So if this is what our tree warden is saying,
Right.
though, that 1.5 is as good as 2 and is better than 3, then I say we follow.
And I agree with him.
If you pull out of the office here and take a right down Dedham Ave, look at all the trees that are in the berm. They all started at 1.5 inch. And now all those crab apples and cherries they're big trees. so
That's
they
really
grow
good.
quick.
So it comes down to-
That makes me feel a lot better. about the
Yeah,
trees
because I
that
feel
are
like I
outside.
look at people.
So we
So
go-
1.5,
Skinny. That's what
1.5?
we could do. All right, great, 1.5.
1.5 to.
That also
Well,
sounds
think
more
it's gonna work.
flexible.
Making
Yes, it does, exactly.
You can always go up, Kurt's gonna
And it is
plant
more
4 inches.
Well, I think it's less money.
All right, so
About the trees.
let's
We have
just try and stay focused for another 10 minutes. Moving along, well, first of all, any other comments in this section? I don't see any noted. Okay, plan review and permit issuance. This note about in section B, should plan requirements be included instead in the rules and regulations as opposed to the bylaw? I think that's a good suggestion. You probably made that. Having just looked at the stormwater bylaw rather extensively, I think the regulations are both easier for the select board to change as needed. It doesn't require town meeting approval. So if we find that, we need to massage any of the finer details, I think that's a better place for that detail to be.
You're saying take entire section 3 out and put it into the section.
Make it a regulation.
And the same thing with the maintenance of protected replanted trees, which is section 4.
Yeah. in
Probably.
general, you want the
Yes.
law to be
Yeah.
general and the regs to be specific.
Right.
Okay,
And then if there
I'm good
is
with that.
any change or something,
Makes
it's normally
sense.
updated.
And
You
mind
don't
you, it
have
doesn't
to
mean
go
any
to the
less work.
board.
We're gonna
Right,
do
right,
our
right,
best
right.
The whole
regulations,
entire
but
bylaw to be-
it does mean that the bylaw stays green, evergreen longer.
Mhm.
I agree.
All right, look at that. We just knocked out a whole huge section. That's so exciting.
We'll look at it
Um,
next time.
good, Gabby, very
Yeah,
good.
adding it on to the end of our list.
Just to say that number 6 there under, about the plan review, about the mitigation plan requirements under B6 is covering what we just said, which is that Ed and others will see on the mitigation plan what the plan is, if it's 21 inches or what, and then, presumably can raise a question about it if there is for some reason
Yes.
a problem. So that's good.
Thank you. Okay, so it is 8 o'clock. We said that we would stop at 8 o'clock. We haven't really. Well, I mean, I guess,
How much longer do we have before we?
no, actually, I mean, then we move on to rules and regulations.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty good, actually. So we're mostly through our bylaw, although we, of course, have to go back to do definitions in more detail, but it's a work in progress, not something we're starting tonight, and then we'll have to start working on our regulations as well. So typically the bylaws are what, and the regulations are how.
Will we have time in the next meeting to go back to some questions on this thing, or should I bring up something now if that's the question?
We'll bring it up. See.
So I think, Ed, you wrote in the margins, should we include the critical root zone of abutter trees in the protection plan? Did we all talk about that already?
I think that's
That's a big-
Where was that?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
It is.
Where was that?
It was on page 6.
I thought we had decided that because the setbacks from abutting properties abut that your neighbor's tree critical root zone probably wouldn't exceed your setback.
If it's right on the property line,
Yeah, they're on the property line.
then the tree,
Yeah.
the neighbor's tree, if it's a couple of feet from the property line, that there's a lot of 50% of the critical root zone is gonna be in the property that's
Tree-
getting.
Especially
the
like
tree yard.
This isn't the definitions, that's why we skipped it, because this was back in the tree save area.
I
But
think that's a big.
it's a big
Okay,
question.
well, I think maybe in our next meeting, that is something, that question alone is
Mhm.
something that we should plan to tackle before we move on to any other portions of definitions or anything else.
We talked about the dimensional, like the tree yard. We determined, and we settled on all the feet.
Yeah, we had that conversation with Chris Heat,
We
that,
did,
yeah,
we did. We, I think in practice, we want the tree yard to line up with our zoning setbacks. In the definitions, we need to let Chris figure out how to word that.
mhm.
But essentially, we're hoping that they run concurrent.
Okay, because just when I'm looking at this back, the front setbacks, Needham's lots are a little narrower than others, and there are underground utilities to consider, driveways. So,
Like we saw last week, Kurt, the new property, we were trying to plant a
Yeah.
tree and said, oh, we got stormwater scepters
Yeah.
here, we got
Guy,
gas, water, sewer, it's like, could put one fastigious tree right here, that's about all you're gonna get, Kurt, but yeah, it's a problem.
So what was your,
We didn't
could
plant.
we get a little relief on the, I don't know. It just, trees are gonna come down in the front of the house, and it's just gonna add to project cost and overall housing.
oh, okay. I can
So is
see
it
what
the
you're saying.
front, is it
So,
the front part of the tree
Yeah,
yard
so when
that
you're
you're
running,
concerned?
everything comes in from the front,
I
and
see.
sometimes, you can't avoid trees because
because you're doing construction, you're
Yeah.
saying, so
you're just
post-construction,
handcuffed. Yeah,
And you're not putting any utilities under driveways?
you really shouldn't. I mean,
right,
you can, but we do everything in our power to, no. But even driveways would, right? If you're tearing down a house, you're flipping the house, you're still gonna have to take down trees to put in a new driveway.
yeah, why do you not put them under? the-
Just because it's tough to access, like, so if say
Oh,
there's
you
a,
have to pull up the
there's a
driveway.
water
Yeah,
line breaks,
okay.
you gotta tear it out.
You gotta dig.
Sure, just to clarify, are you saying that because the narrow lots, the setback from the front, when you say you're bringing everything in, does that mean like from the street, like the equipment has to come that way because you don't have other access, or is there something?
Well, you have to, underground utilities are a concern.
Right, you're not,
So
nothing's coming
water,
from the
gas,
back, it's
electric.
all coming from the front and, is what you're.
So, I mean, I think everyone here, I personally like to save as many trees as I can, but there are situations in which I can't.
Right.
So, I mean,
So you're looking in your,
a little relief would be nice
Proposal.
there,
under the front,
on the front side,
so,
exactly.
so give me an example, for example, this house has a large maple tree in the front
Yeah.
yard. And you're going to do a reno and it's been approved and blah, blah,
Well,
blah.
if a tear down would be more like, because, you gotta cut the utilities in the yard somewhere. Sometimes you have to go back, depending on how old the water line is, you can't go copper to cast iron. You have to cut it in the street, which you have to go all the way out, and then all the way back in.
So when you say relief though,
Yeah,
if you choose to cut the trees down, doesn't that just mean you have to mitigate? So either you're planting elsewhere in the yard, or you're making a tree fund donation.
Yeah.
Are you saying though that on small lots, you don't think you should have to do that?
I think it's just another cost to the developer.
Yeah,
It would be nice, I know it does seem like, we're gonna get the developer, we're gonna make them, we're gonna try and stop them from doing this, but
you're saying they're,
But
it's gonna
I guess
happen.
it's
anyway,
easier,
it's
I'm
gonna raise
saying on
costs.
like a Wellesley lot where you have 180 feet, it's easier to come up with different solutions,
Right.
but
yeah. Well, except that this bylaw is gonna apply throughout town. So certainly, I mean, it's fair to say that most of our tear down activity is
SRB,
happening
yeah.
within SRB, and those are smaller lots with smaller frontage. But I'd hate to see that not apply
Yeah,
elsewhere just because there's one constrained area.
Well, then maybe, you could do it not applicable to SRV in the front.
Oh.
Not. But but
Okay, well, let's just stew on that for a little bit, maybe not answer it
Yeah. no, I-
immediately,
yeah.
but let's do on like some ways to deal with that issue. Because I
Yeah.
think that's, it's.
It's a
Yeah,
valid
at the end of it,
point, it's
it's more
valid.
just like, if we can avoid, I'm not gonna, like I said, in Wellesley, I'm not taking down trees in the tree bylaw or in the tree zone, because I have that luxury. But,
Right.
I
you
guess the
don't.
question is whether or not you have options. I think it's, if you're given carte blanche, does that mean that you're not could potentially bring utilities down in a corridor and get into that building? I mean, obviously, you're always trying to go into the most.
Or
efficient
even if
place
you
in
had,
your
that
basement.
14 on the side, so you have 30 feet of no disturb, and then that center, I don't know.
Well, maybe we could think about
Extending the
some,
setbacks or
like, for non-conforming lots that are extra small, maybe making some kind of exemption or accommodation. But I think I wouldn't wanna do it across the board,
That's-
but there are, I mean, I think
I think
you bring
that's
up a fair
reasonable.
point
Yeah.
that like,
Well,
there are gonna be
and
some
those-
places
And
where
it's
you
easy to
can't
just keep
avoid
on
it.
throwing the costs on, but at some point.
Right.
Maybe you could think about what's the minimum width of lot that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be where the tree is and how many trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where
so-
Eversource cuts the,
Yeah.
cuts the underground
Yeah.
utilities.
Yeah,
We don't have control over that.
okay, well, let's,
Yeah,
let's
where the nearest
all
telephone pole
think
is.
about what might be acceptable, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I think,
I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't.
no, fair.
No,
I'm
exactly.
representing the
Yeah,
developer
yeah.
community.
That's
But
and
we-
fair.
I'm just saying.
And
Then
honestly, we
again, the
don't-
whole reason we're here
think
is
we don't wanna
because of
make
these
this
extra
so
small lots that are
onerous
getting
that
clear
it's
cut down and.
impossible to build a house, so that's not the point.
Right.
Yeah, it's not,
So-
it will never be impossible. Houses
It'll
are gonna
just
get
cost
more
a lot.
expensive.
Yeah.
Fair,
and then
but
you're
that's
talking about-
happening across the board.
No, I know.
Tree bylaw, everything else.
Yeah, but I'm just
So-
saying, if there's like, a little bit of ways to work together, and as you said, we don't
Yep.
wanna.
Thanks for bringing it up.
No, I think what,
Seriously.
what I hear from that is like, this is an example of, there's certain lots, and you guys know, right, certain zones that maybe they're an exception, but the bigger point is these trees are likely to come down regardless. And the question is it gonna have like a disproportionate impact, which is what people in certain neighborhoods are gonna care about?
Yeah.
On how excited the developer is to buy their house for the amount that they've started thinking they'll be able to sell it for, and how rich families will have to be to get into the small lots, right? But Heidi, your point is really well taken. We have to be really careful with how we think about it, because not all of NEDA is like that, and that could undermine a large chunk of what we're trying to do. If these are trees that are coming down, there should be some financial, I don't wanna say pain, but
Right, and
consequence and or mitigation, but because that improves the quality of life of the house, right, and other things, but we have to be realistic. We have very different kinds of lots throughout the town.
So I was just gonna say, in these cases with these small lots, and it still triggers the tree mitigation or the tree plan that you have to review. And if it's clear that there's no way to avoid because of utilities and other things, then maybe that's where you can provide an additional exemption
Reduction.
or reduction for specific trees, maybe like here and there.
I think the
So-
question would be how far into the process that happens. I mean, are you
They're gonna come down regardless.
applying for your demo
It's-
permit? I'm just trying to think of the order, and that's something that we need to look at anyway, so maybe we can talk about this
Yeah.
with that list in front of us. But I think how, so you apply for the demo permit and you were saying, do we know at that point that you're gonna
You
have to
have a
take?
general sense, like
like
where
how
the
much
water
room you're
comes
gonna
on a
need?
lot, where the sewer comes on a lot, where the gas.
Well, when do you do dig safe? At what point do you do dig safe?
Very beginning.
Okay, so at the very beginning exactly where those utility
Yeah.
lines are.
Yeah, so I mean, actually, I think that sounds really reasonable. If we know that, there's setbacks and then there's utilities, and then there's,
The stormwater management.
stormwater, whatever,
System.
whatever, and how much room, depending on how much, I mean, like my property only has, I think, 75 feet of frontage, like it's just not that much space where you could save a tree necessarily. So I think we can consider building something in for some.
I just wanted to
kind
go
of
on
exemption.
and say,
No, I
Do we
think
know?
it makes sense, and I think it's about what kind of mitigation, right? Is it a lesser cost, but still you contribute some? Is it if you can place the tree somewhere else like that? Because we still want to encourage something, it's still a loss of a
Or
tree.
replant
But-
after you,
But it
because you
doesn't
can
have
still
to
put
be
a tree
as-
in the front yard, I mean.
The
unless-
trees in
Yeah,
the front
say-
yard are the ones that are most likely to be the ones noticed by everybody.
And that's the thing, is we don't want to
That's-
ignore
that-
that,
That's the
right?
sad thing. You
Yeah.
keep all the trees in the back, but that's great for that particular landowner and neighbors,
Right.
but it's the missing fronts. that-
Frontage.
And if it's, right, so we want to be pretty thoughtful about it, but I mean, it makes sense, like if there's a
Sure.
problem, but
I'm
it
just-
does sound like it's only a portion of the town. It's that way.
I'm just curious, what are you exactly proposing?
I don't know, I was just saying, like I said, to some sort of lesser penalty, that would be helpful.
For frontage.
For frontages, yeah.
Yeah, for
In
small.
those
And the frontage
scenarios.
is
so
not
not-
In non-conforming
legally
scenarios.
pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah.
Because like the non-conforming, remember the last week or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago, we had the underground water retention system, the driveway, and then 4 underground trenches for utilities. And it's just, these lots get choked out on the front yard. So you're not gonna put it, obviously where because you'd shift it back, but space becomes limited very quickly on some of these.
Right, and you can't really plant certain trees within proximity of utilities.
No, you're not.
So that
Yeah,
is,
so-
And
that
the
is
same
the
thing with those
critical
Caltex.
envelope that
Yeah.
we need to understand,
There's a
you know,
direct
what.
conflict, yes.
Abs-
Trees and all the stuff that has to go underground.
I
A
saw
lot
that
of this is-
on Warren Street, in this new house, we were trying to
Yeah.
work together to get a tree in the front yard, and then we started looking gas, water, sewer, retention areas, I said, because he wanted like a native species, a big sugar maple, I'm like, sugar maple, there's no way we can get a sugar
Is there
maple.
anything that we could look at with DPW that maybe starts to create more
Big lots?
consolidation of utilities?
Oh, that's.
Everybody wants their own utilities for their own trench and their own protection. I mean, there's some logical things like
Gang
just
trench.
getting,
I don't think that's recommended.
I mean, I don't wanna do, obviously, some don't go together, but as long as you have working room.
When they put the gas line in, they had some machine that tunneled under the ground. Does that solve the problem in some cases or not? I mean, I have 2 sugar maples on the burn in front of my house. And they went, they definitely went under or through some of those roots.
I've never seen that. but
No?
Not another, because we're, I guess
It
maybe
was
we're
an
really
air knife.
exist or new.
An air knife, maybe?
It's an air
Pneumatic tool. we
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, and it was a plastic line, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know what.
Where do you live? We're gonna keep it on.
I think, I think there's an opportunity. I think we need to phrase it correctly
Yeah,
so
just,
that it's
let's
not.
just think about it
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
week.
that's why I
And
wanted
then-
to bring it
yeah,
up
no,
and
I
then
appreciate
for
it.
the next
That's-
one, maybe.
That's perfect. So take a look at the tree bylaw sequence of events, if you will, as projected on our screen. Let's just go through and make sure that we agree with all these steps and their sequences.
Where is that in the packet?
It's after the regulations.
After the regulations.
You guys scroll for a bit.
Okay, so
24.
Right, I got it.
So the very first step is theoretically, unless someone is flagrant violation, is requesting a building permit. Street permit, demolition permit, new construction permit, or addition or alteration. And then that would trigger the look back. So right at the outset, we're gonna know, theoretically, we're gonna know if any nefarious activity has taken place.
Quick question, does Wellesley's look back period match this?
Yes.
12 months.
I thought it was 24 months, but no. I'm
No,
not.
they have 12 months as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the applicant hopefully will be answering honestly and either triggering or not triggering the bylaw. And if they trigger the bylaw, they're gonna provide a tree protection and mitigation plan along with their permit application. You have any comments about this so far? Is this how you're finding it working in other towns? All right. So the tree warden and or their designated agent and Ed, I mean, this is gonna be kind of new for you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Will review the applicant's tree protection and mitigation plan. Are you gonna have looked at the permit? I mean, we just talked about the permit, if it's triggering the bylaw, gets sent to all the different departments. So are you gonna see that before you see the mitigation plan?
So there's assumptions they're coming as a package with their permit application. So Ed they'll check the box. This is going to Ed. When building gets the permit, it's gonna include the plan and they're sending all of that to Ed.
And until Ed signs off,
Exactly.
the permit is
The
not.
permit cannot be issued. Yeah.
The same with
So your
conservation.
signature.
All right, so then moving along to number 4. So. If,
This is for the 24-month, which technically we haven't talked about yet in the bylaw.
right,
It's 24 months in your view, then, right?
2
Time
years.
period
24 months
for
for,
survival.
yeah.
how are we gonna keep track of that?
We're gonna have to create a whole calendar that will just trigger a site visit, so
Yeah.
you can want, so.
Yeah, there's everything.
With
We talked,
the Conservation Commission holds off on the certificate of compliance
correct.
until they show that the trees have survived, but I don't know if there's anything like
Keep the
that.
occupancy
Also-
permit for a couple of years.
What?
No, I don't think we can do that.
You're gonna
That
get a
won't be
very
popular.
bad reputation,
No,
very
no.
fast.
So we're imagining this right now that.
Okay,
once
You could hold on to a
that final
deposit.
permit is
Hold on,
issued,
because.
Building department says to Ed, permit was issued
Make a
September
reminder.
1, 2025. Please make a note, September 1, 2027,
Yeah, it's on
a
us.
2-year inspection will be required,
But-
and someone is putting that in
So-
the calendar.
Usually when we have, in the Conservation Commission, it's registered in the deed, it's registered when it's, so, you know, for example, Kirk does a house, somebody buys it, flips it
Yeah.
in less than a year.
Yeah.
It is that retention, especially the retention, I saw it earlier, that must be somewhere, recorded somewhere. Because otherwise, it's non-resolute.
Yeah, it
It
also
really
has,
is.
really also has to be the homeowner who has to deal with.
Yes.
the-
Because if I sell a house, the
Right.
homeowner comes in and cuts the trees down.
Right, not
Exactly.
your
So
problem.
it's non-resolute, unless this is, for example, in our case, it goes into that, into the registry of deeds. So once that certificate of compliance, all the engineering plans, everything goes into it. So somewhere here, that retention plan is what's triggering me to think about this, because what, you know, you spent all this time putting mitigation plans, I buy the house and I
Don't know.
flagrantly decide that I'm going to just knock off all those trees because I want hydrangeas. There's nothing there.
Yeah, well, they said that's happened to them
Mhm.
before.
There's nothing there. So unless that retention plan is recorded somewhere, it's not enforceable, period.
Well, they'll just get a wake up
Well,
call when Ed shows up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
but
they'll be-
I mean, it's on file with the building commissioner.
Prevention
No,
is
but
worth
that's not.
It's not the
a lot
same.
of.
No,
No, and the
Sure.
homeowner,
I
is the
don't know
homeowner
if I
even
would
gonna know
be-
that, or, you know?
Is the title tied to
care?
it? I have to, like, it would need, the bylaw will need to say something, and maybe it already does, or the regs, and this is where Chris is.
Yeah, this is
but-
where we're gonna need Chris. right?
But like, would need to say, regardless of who owned, right, like, the homeowner at the time will be responsible for a penalty if within the 24-month period, even it could die, the tree could die, and that's a risk they're taking when they're purchasing the house, but it can't be on the developer. They may have it that
But is
negotiate that.
Is that likely to be, do you do that with in the agreement? Do you make note of that?
What kind of disclosures do
Yeah.
people do in Wellesley and
So
stuff?
that there's some record of it, so that even if they sell the house, there's still record of it, so that the next owner knows that there was.
The only way that would happen if it's recorded.
Well,
Not
it's gonna,
too many
it's gonna
gonna
be
happen.
on the tree mitigation plan. And the plan will be on file. Won't be like recorded, but it will be on file with the building commissioner. That's a public record. It's not going anywhere.
But any
Okay.
homeowner that buys a house is not going to
I don't know.
know of that or even care
No,
about
but I'm
that.
saying when Ed shows up 2 years later.
Yeah, that's not a
He
good
will have it.
surprise.
If you own land in the town, you
That's
have
not
a
a good
duty to kind of
interaction.
understand basic
So
principles of it.
for the stormwater bylaw, we have the applicant file something with the registry of deeds, what they call it,
The plan.
well, the plan, not the plan, building plan, but the maintenance.
Oh, the
operation.
stormwater.
So that the homeowner knows, because when they buy a home, they do look at the registry, but they don't really look at the building department records.
Right.
Correct, but they know what has to be maintained and how to maintain it. I mean, you could do the same thing with trees, but I feel a little weird about like
Yeah.
having a registry record about trees.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many things that could go wrong.
Mhm.
Well, a tree could just die, and then you have a tree on record at the registry that doesn't exist
Right.
anymore.
But that's the point.
Well, for 2 years.
Or a storm could come through and
Yeah,
take
that
up a
is-
tree, and that's not,
Right.
So,
I'm thinking of it in the enforceable part. So if you have a registry, internal registry that says, these houses all need to be inspected in 2027. Is that enough for us? Is that good enough for you? Is that, reliable? Is it even workable? I guess my question is.
Well, it's certainly workable if there's staff. I mean, I would think that you'd scan all the plans, set up the calendar outlook, so all you do is open up your schedule and say, oh, here's the plan. Now you just gotta go out there and check, it's 2 years, and that's the final sign off, but certainly workable.
Okay.
I think a lot of this is gonna take a
2
lot of
years and one
staff, so I
day.
mean,
right.
we haven't really got into that, but there's gonna be a lot of hours in this right there, so,
Mhm.
but it's certainly workable.
Can you estimate like what the hours would be?
I think they.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they've already started.
Yeah, they started
Well, I'll
that.
tell you what happened to me. My colleague over there used to have a job. Now all he does is the tree pile. That's all he does. That's about, nothing else is occupation, but he just does the bylaws. So I would have to tell Needham that probably is where I'm gonna be at it, is I'll be overwhelmed by this. And I'll probably even need help to do this, because it's gonna be a lot of time, and I won't have time to lead my parks and forestry teams or all the other things I do for the town. I'll be doing this.
Is there a junior
And that's what we
person
heard
under
under
you?
Everything changed, and all this time is basically the bylaw.
What if it's not you?
Yeah, what if it's not you and
What if
it's,
it's someone under you?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that's gonna come back and
Well,
report to you?
we would
Yeah.
have to,
You'd have to
you would
figure that out.
allocate resources appropriately so that, you are doing the things that you need to be doing and this stuff is covered.
And look, like it is up to the town how strictly the 24-month thing happens, right? Like, I mean, that has to be, that can be prioritized too. Could be that the actual physical checks is, I mean, it probably should be, but at the same time, like, if the resources get tight, you could allocate that, we're doing 1 and 2, right? 1 out of
Like
every
a
2.
survey,
'cause
yeah.
like, you don't have to, right, because the real impact is, are we preventing certain trees from being torn down? And are we at least making a good effort by planting? I'd say a good chunk of the goals of the committee
Yeah,
are
I
met.
agree with you.
And so that is ideally, yeah, we have 24 months, everyone's getting checked, but at the end of the day, that's a resource question that we can decide. But I do think it's worth putting a note to talk with the attorney about the issue that we were talking about. What happens with the homeowner if there is a problem? Do we need to build in any kind of notice requirements for a homeowner that this could be? I don't know how that all works, but we don't want to be in a situation where, you know, a homeowner doesn't understand it, they've either done something or all the trees, you know, developer doesn't do it right and all their trees die and all of a sudden the town shows up and says, you owe us X.
Yeah, so, well, you're making it out to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I'm sure there's a way to do
Yeah.
that, but that could become a problem.
Yeah, excellent.
I kind of like where you're going. I think if you make it, this enforcement section, at the discretion of the tree warden.
Mhm.
Within a certain amount of time, it becomes kind of a complaint-based system, which is how most of our enforcement is now.
Mhm.
And
We
instead of,
heard that too.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
I'd rather you focusing in on improving the mitigation plans than driving around town just.
Right, I mean, I think you don't necessarily need a tree warden to sell if the tree is alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Could be an
Well,
intern.
I mean, couldn't
Junior
couldn't
staff.
the owner then, instead of at the 2-year mark, submit a report?
Well, if they know to do it, I mean, you know, potentially you could automate an email thing that says, please send me a picture.
I do believe that simplifying the process would be, put it on the owner to
Mhm.
send
I
a
know.
report.
Well, but we
That's
just
the
had a
opposite.
conversation about how the homeowner might not know any of
That's
this,
the,
or it might have
won't
changed
happen, and
hands. I
what
mean,
do
it
you
just,
do?
it's, you know, that isn't necessarily gonna have the contact information for the homeowner if the owner has changed, or, I mean, I just think that there's
I
no
like
one
the
size
idea of
fits
the
all
email,
solution.
but
But we could look into other less resource intensive ways to check up on it. But I also think that this would, if we were to really enforce this, it would be, as Josh points out, unlike any of our other bylaws in Needham. And so we need to
balance.
shoot for the stars,
Yeah.
but accept that, like,
The 24-month thing there is also to prevent someone from doing something intentional, at least in that period too, or not taking care of it in the most basic
Not taking care of it.
way,
yeah,
right? Like, I think that it's the kind of, 98% of the people, if they're informed of it, are going to try to follow it.
and
And
for
they'll
the
be
most
more
part, they
annoyed
get a
if
lot
they
of money
get,
for these trees.
yeah, and if they
So-
get a lot of emails and pestering and they're told you're late with your submission. And you're like, I bought this house and 50 things, then first time homeowner, they're gonna get frustrated by that, whereas if Ed shows up and say, hey, great job, or never shows up or sends a friendly letter, just reminder or something, we'll figure it out. But as much as I like to shift the burden to the homeowner, I don't think this is the right place to do it.
Well, Kurt, how would you do it as a builder? So Lawrence Street, someone buys that, you got protected trees, how would you disclose, what's your obligations to the buyer? I would think you'd have to say.
Notify them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I,
Do you turn over some kind of information packet on like the trees that you planted or?
It could just
Or
be,
the, I mean, but not just the trees that you planted, you put in a cul-de-sac, you put in,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
electrical
yeah.
lines are more or less here, I mean, you give them some sort of,
yeah. a packet,
Diagram, right?
Exactly.
And there would be a mitigation plan that would have the trees on it, that were planted. So
Well, in that
that
case,
should
So
be
we
the
can
document.
put
It would be
something
a
that
retention
requires the
Yeah,
builder
yeah,
to
a
provide at
maintenance
least
plan.
at minimum.
so we
a
could put that in
mitigation
our
plan.
regulations.
Yeah, I think that if it's a document that's
Copy
already
of
been
the tree
created,
mitigation plan will be
That's-
provided to the homeowner.
and then that puts them on
turnover.
notice.
Yeah.
And a reference and a citation in that, like on the tree mitigation plan to the bylaw. So
Sure.
they can just Google the bylaw, that, you wanna just make sure that the homeowner doesn't have an argument that they weren't given notice
Mhm.
and the town is coming in.
Yeah.
Right, and most, the builders are doing a lot, things are gonna slip through the cracks, but if it's a checklist, and includes a document that already exists.
And it puts it off of your
Right.
list.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
So I guess I have a question, because in my opinion, what you'd be passing on is the retention plan. Because you already completed the mitigation plan and paid your fees.
Right.
So what you would be putting into that package would be a retention plan.
Say, here's how to take care of the trees and.
Exactly.
Right.
And probably
Exactly.
a warranty to say, hey.
Ed's gonna come see you
You're gonna
in 2
warranty
years.
this for 1 year.
Yeah.
But you have a
You have to keep
responsibility for 2 years, but I'll make sure all my plantings, and after that, it's kind of on you. Year 2 is.
Right.
I mean,
so I'm thinking-
realistically, if a homeowner buys a property from you and the tree dies within the first year, they're gonna come to you
Yeah,
anyway,
replace
and
it.
you're gonna replace it anyway. So, I mean, like what Ed just said, it's like a warranty, but it's, even if it's not written down, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
It's a notification
I
of
would.
responsibility.
So I'm just
Okay, so I
just
think
making
there's
sure we have we differentiate between the mitigation
Yeah.
plan and the
Yeah,
retention
yeah.
plan, because I think the retention plan is more to the owner of the house to manage when they receive.
And I would say, Ed is gonna check in on you in 2 years' time, so
Yeah.
make sure the tree's still alive.
But I guess I don't know how the retention plan is enforceable. Because the building permit's already going to be closed. So, like, you won't have a right to walk onto the property.
That's, I think, where we need.
Proceed to the-
Exactly.
That's a good point, Josh. I mean, I can't just show up and start poking around. I mean, I think that's against the law without being, or us putting language to say, if we choose to.
So we'll have to check,
So it's
talk
part of the
with Chris
retention
about-
plans.
Yeah, I mean,
what
that's what
kind of
they do in-
enforceability
What
we
is
have.
Wellesley?
Yeah, they do that in Wellesley, so I don't know.
They show up?
Yep, yeah, this language, except for the red line that's in here, sorry, I went back to the bylaw, so we were talking about some more detail, but besides this language that's in red, this is identical to what Wellesley has, so they have the 24 months.
So fortunately, Chris's firm wrote this,
Mhm.
so we have access to the behind the scenes thinking. So
We did
we'll,
hear from Wellesley though, that they're not doing any 24.
They're doing
The
it on a
only time they
complaint
check is
basis.
complaint based.
Right.
That's it.
okay,
But then they, but
Don't
if,
check in.
so
And
how
that's
do
because
they-
they didn't get new staff. when
Who's
they
complaining?
the neighbors are.
The neighbors.
Yeah, neighbor funding.
which is exactly when they would get mad at you if you just show up.
I mean, to be frank, you know, our businesses do that as well, like. This business was supposed to have these arborvitae's planted to mask their loading dock, and they're dead, and
Right.
I'm calling to have the town manage that, because that was in their
Agreed.
building,
Can we go?
like, so I mean, so,
You're alive.
it wasn't though.
I.
We just
But,
use it.
so I think, you know, it is possible that, yeah, if a tree dies in the front yard, there will be neighbors who call. Those
We
same-
just need all neighbors to be as attentive and responsible as you are.
Well,
No, I'm teasing.
So it's,
that was tasked to me.
so I'm just following up on what you said, Josh. So they close out the building permit, you sign off, you check on Kirk's work, it looks beautiful, gorgeous, absolutely wonderful, check, 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 check. In that check process, because you have to get an occupancy
Mhm.
permit. If we can consult this with legal, somewhere in there, in that building permit or in that documentation that is being given, are we including anything in
Bonding.
terms of the stormwater? Okay, so where I'm getting at is, if there is, because in the
So it's the
commission,
retention
we're
plan.
set, it's coming into your registry, it's going into the registry of deed. So that's a compliance driven, legal. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you have that process vetted with legal, that it's incorporated into that building package, somehow we can add to that maybe the retention plan conditions or process or whatever within the 2 year. What are your thoughts?
I think. So with stormwater, there's no retention plan. I mean, there's an obligation to maintain.
Right,
the units.
permanently.
But on town council's advice, we didn't give the town permission to just come on people's property to inspect it, because they said we can't do that.
Right.
So the way we said it is, if a homeowner, this is new construction or otherwise, is responsible for water coming onto the town, then the town does have a responsibility to check and make sure that it stops, yeah.
Right, which is different from the
It is
trees.
different, yeah, because the trees, the lack of trees, like, what is the impact on the town with the lack of trees? It's hard to measure.
Right, it is.
Well,
What
but we-
if it's the neighbor, not the town? That's another issue that the
But
town.
we are gonna have to measure that, because we are gonna have to assign a value to a tree coming down. So we will have a calculation about what the value of that is to the town by
So,
the time we're done.
so you're saying, like, if the canopy on the property is reduced by a certain amount, then the town can
assess
Course or something.
theoretically. I mean, yeah, we'll decide if we want to go there and if that makes sense for us, but I think there is a case to be made.
Yeah, I'm just trying in terms of enforceability, you know, what would be the logical way to ensure that, you know,
People let you stand
I'm
on.
saying you're gonna be here for a long time, but, you know, people move on from decisions and then, you know, things fall through the cracks and it happens. So, but if there is a process when you get the building permit, the occupancy permit, if there's something that kind of ties into, you get that package and with that package, you get, you know, I don't know.
This, the struggle I have is that like, an infiltration system is fixed as meant to live with the home. A tree has its own life, like it
Right.
it can die, grow.
Disease,
Yeah.
pests,
So,
storms.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we will, I think, put that on hold for now and
legal.
consider. I mean, I think, yeah, but these are all questions that sort of already we've seen some fluctuation from week to week. It's good to bide a little while. And then we'll also be checking with legal to see what they have to say about Wellesley's.
Can we ask
As a
them
guide.
if they do have any transfer of paper or responsibility, like a record document?
I think we did ask that and they didn't.
They did not, so they're,
That's my recollection, that's why they've been running. into
it's
this
complaint
issue.
based,
Yeah,
100%. Even though it's written, it's not enforced.
They don't do much
they are doing
enforcement,
enforcement based on complaints.
Just like that.
And the only significant legal challenge that they had was an instance where a property had transferred to a new homeowner and they cut down every single tree. And then there was a complaint. Building inspector came out and had to issue a very large fine.
And of course they paid it.
I believe that they went to their zoning board of appeals because
Yes,
theirs is
that's
within
right, they appealed.
zoning. And they ended up reducing the fee slightly, I believe.
So the new homeowner had to pay the fine
Yes,
under what
because,
pretense? Because the,
because it was within the 2-year period
And they
for
cut them.
that.
But they cut
property.
it down.
Yeah, and they had
but
cut down.
what was holding the new homeowner? I guess, is that a question for?
Well,
Yes,
that's,
that's
so
it.
that's the
The way that
original.
their bylaws read is the property owner is responsible
Whoever
for
is cutting
ensuring
them.
that those trees are alive when the 2-year review.
Got
is
it.
done.
And the homeowner said, I didn't know that, or?
Yeah, Homer said no
Well,
idea.
that
no one
that
told
goes
me.
back to my first question, but I think legal needs to
Yeah.
kind of weigh in on this
Yeah.
because it's impossible to come up with a solution.
If I'm remembering right, Wellesley did an audit of their new law. And they thought they had reduced tree loss by 66% or so, by 2/3. Am I remembering this right? So the question is, the point would be, maybe Wellesley isn't as worried about the enforcement on the planting because they feel like the biggest benefit of their law has been prevention rather than
Which is what Erica was saying.
repairing the losses.
I think Wellesley just doesn't have the staff to enforce because they didn't create a new staff position when this started, so they're at the whims of whatever their building commissioner is able to get to from the complaints that come in.
Sure.
Be very nice to have. We don't want to have them join us as a guest in the future meeting.
Okay. So we have some things to consult with Chris about, and we'll talk about whether we do that later in the process or piecemeal throughout, have him come here, or if we'll talk to him offline. I do want to take a second to go through our schedule and make sure that we're all aligned on what's upcoming, when our public sessions are. And then we also have to talk about the harvest fair, so let's switch gears.
Bring up one other topic, we don't have to like solve it tonight, but because the stormwater bylaw had a provision of trees and this is going to replace it, whatever we come up with. I think there should be a provision about planting trees, not just moving the restricting the removal, but actively having new trees be planted. And I was just thinking, it might, could trigger might be, you know, if there's additional coverage of a lot of, you know, if the house expands, basically, so.
Well, we have
it's
it
not gonna-
25%.
That would be a trigger, but if it's increased by a certain square footage, you have to add a certain amount of trees to the property.
Even if you haven't removed it.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, I think that in some cases, like certainly in SRB, that could be really challenging. I mean, to Kurt's point, if you have not so much frontage, we also
When
have
you
some
planted trees on problems, like on top of a sewer line. just a tree
setbacks,
on
and then you've got the cul-de-sacs in the yard. I mean, it could be that there is actually, I mean, we could consider something like that, but I guess similar to what we discussed about the front yard, I'd want to make it dependent on lot size and available
Like a
land
certain size lot,
to,
in certain scenario.
yeah. Because it could be really problematic to find a
Other towns
space.
doing that?
I'm not aware of it. I was just thinking of a trigger that could be easily measured. Because I guess I just want to avoid a situation where you have trees on big lots, but no trees on small lots.
Well, I think though that that's part of why, I mean, we're instituting this tree yard. So that the lot can't be clear cut. So that you don't have that problem. I mean, I'd be willing to entertain a discussion of not now,
Yeah.
but like a discussion about that, but I think I am hesitant to, first of all, incur additional cost. Like if it's not in,
The tree yard.
well, yeah, like if we're just saying you have to plant some trees on your property. I mean, I don't know, it seems a little. Well, let's table the discussion, but let's have it, you know,
But
next
that
time.
is what was in the stormwater bylaw. And I think people were excited about it.
Can I just throw out a hypothetical there to follow that? Just for the sake of argument, what if this is a strange lot and basically all the trees that are on the property are somehow not in the yard, in the tree buffer, right? They just happen to be in the backyard in a clump. Okay, they come down and there's no mitigation. So you all of a sudden have effectively clear cut because there were no trees
Mhm.
in the tree yard.
Yeah, so,
So could there be something in our language that says,
In the
you
event.
know, in the
no
event that
trees, no
something like, there's
landscapes.
nothing, and if there's no trees that are being, I don't know, you tell me, Kurt. But,
There's
you know,
literally
you know,
nothing.
you've taken, you know, you've made a major change to the property.
Right.
Experience of the property, but you just happen to avoid having to have mitigated anything that's in the buffer. Do you trigger something like you're required to put back, I don't know, 25% or 10% of it? I don't know what the number is, but put something back in the tree yard that as it works,
Or
as
something.
as
I
it
wanna
would be
read
part
what
of
it
your
says.
landscape plan, basically. So it's
Okay.
I think it sounds over.
I do think that this is another thing.
going
we wanna
down a
check
rabbit
first.
hole.
Well, that's the example of was I gave of the AstroTurf backyard, right?
Yeah.
It's- All the trees that were on the lot were all
Right.
outside of the tree yard, and so now.
You might get
literally a
lucky,
Yard of AstroTurf, but-
Yeah.
and
So,
there was no mitigation.
right, because there was nothing there to trip the, I gotta plant trees.
okay,
I had one more discussion thing too. I do
Yeah.
want to revisit the street permit thing, because I've been sitting here trying to read it, and there's nothing in the street permit that would be tripped by taking out trees.
That's not in the-
There's nothing in this that, the street permit,
It doesn't say if you're gonna bring heavy equipment across the sidewalk. when
you don't bring that across
You
the
don't
sidewalk.
necessarily.
Oh, because the crane.
Crane
Everything's
stays
on
on
the street.
That's kind of what I was, like, that's the only scenario. There must be another,
In the long list of
Something.
stuff listed there, there's nothing about
Okay.
anything landscaping or tree removal. It's all utilities,
Cutting.
driveways,
Digging,
And digging.
excavating.
excavating for utilities.
Right.
It's not,
maybe,
it's not oriented for.
maybe the way to do it is if you were, or you pull you're going to pull a permit within a certain amount of time. Right, so if it's not, it's one thing if you're removing your one tree. But if you're going to be, like, the additional bullet would say, or,
Doesn't.
Yeah,
You have a look back period on the permit.
it does, but it doesn't,
but in Oscar's example, where you've got a clump of trees that are
no,
not in
that's
the tree
different,
yard.
though. This, I feel
No,
like
not
his is different.
necessarily though, because as the homeowner, you could just decide to take those trees down.
Mhm.
So
But
All
they're
I'm
not
saying
gonna be applying for a permit. I think your point is that as it is written, going back to that listing of 4 things, it is, yes, we have the 12-month look back. But if you want to incorporate, well, I guess the look back is covering that though, right? So
Yes,
what's
the look
is your
back's still-
concern protected by the look back? Like, so if somebody were to be doing true construction, but just not have to pull the street permit.
You think of landscaping, you just think of someone that doesn't like trees. and
Yeah,
just
but
wants
they-
to
but
be
they
in a
have-
community.
they still have that
I'm just
right,
telling you, Nothing
don't
in
they?
there that's
right.
there's
I mean-
nothing in the street permit that
But do they for the
suggests
tree
you
yard?
would pull a street permit to remove.
not in the tree yard.
But that's what
But
he's
in the
saying, is
bulk
that
of
it
the
wouldn't
yard.
count. So if I think what you're saying is if what happened to my, so
So a homeowner is not doing any construction, they just don't like their trees and they want them taken down.
And there's no.
Along the tree
There's no
And
permit
there's
triggering.
no
Right.
permit triggering anything.
I mean, there's probably not too many.
Well, I mean, I
instances
think
of
we have
that.
to be really careful about going there.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that
yeah,
we can discuss it with Chris, but I hesitate to
yeah.
noodle on that for too
Mhm.
long before we figure out if that's even
Yeah,
gonna.
I'm just being
Fly.
clear that that's not
That's not a
the
Yeah,
way
it's
this
not-
is
it's not
written,
a trigger.
It's
not a
not,
thing.
it's not designed as a trigger for this purpose.
But if you have to, if you're building a tennis court and that triggers a street permit,
Yeah,
and
Right.
there happen to be trees where that is, then.
Right,
That
it's
would be
still fine to have it in there,
That
but it's
would
not
be different.
capturing,
It's not
What we
capturing
thought it was
just
capturing.
landscaping or just tree
there's no
removal.
need for the tree guys to pull the permit.
Yeah.
A permit.
It's
I-
a question of like, if they're tied to demolition or some kind of significant new construction, then they would realize like, oh, we're gonna have to do a demo permit next. I'm assuming this is how it happens, but if I'm wrong, correct. If we know we're gonna pull a demo permit, that's gonna trigger the bylaw, and that's what would stop their subcontractors from doing that full tree removal. But unless they're planning to do that demo or significant new construction,
And you're saying they have to do that before they take the house down?
Take the trees down?
but not before the permit goes in or before the.
Potentially, but,
So
It might not be tied.
yeah.
would it be
You might not
potentially
capture
to
it.
add to that street permit
Also, that's the.
the removal of, like a checkbox for removal of trees? Like,
I
they
don't have
have
an answer,
large
I just-
trees.
Yeah,
point-
no,
I'm
no,
just
I
pointing
think,
out
I
the way
think
that
it's,
it's
we
written,
decided that
it's
the look back
clearly-
covers it.
Yeah, I think the look back covers it.
Yeah.
But we can also noodle on it and come back to it.
Okay.
I know that it's getting late, so I'm sorry to keep pushing us,
Yeah,
but
it's getting
I want to continue to stay on schedule. I want to talk about our calendar. Our calendar first.
page 25 of the PDF.
October.
So October 8th is very soon. Joe Prondak will be there to discuss our building present permit process. We'll continue with our review, but when is our first presentation here?
Presentation to the select board in December. And a community listening session for feedback in January.
I'm wondering if we want to maybe have one sooner and give some indication about the direction that we're taking here.
A public session.
Yeah, I think I'm uncomfortable with waiting
Going too
until
far.
January. Because if, there's massive outcry or just, I mean, not even
It's just
whatever the
information.
reaction is, I feel like we owe it to the community to sort of put it out there. So I wonder if we can think about repurposing one of these dates potentially and doing and making it into a public forum. I mean, I know that our dates were like a nightmare to settle on, so I don't want to mess with the schedule too much. So maybe if we can just flip some things.
We had communities, the first community survey at the very beginning of December. Would you want to flip that and have that be a listening session rather than starting with the survey?
We could do
I
the
think that
survey
I
after.
think that December is still really
December
long.
too late. Okay. So
A long way
November.
away. I'd like to do
November 17th.
something in like, well, town meeting's late October, so maybe
November
de-
17th?
November. Whether that's
we'll flip.
Yeah, I mean,
the-
November 17th seems like.
We'll flip the town manager to December.
town
Say that
manager.
again. So the,
Feedback from the office of town manager.
So,
regarding consideration
do
for
we-
staff and resources,
do we-
move that later.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm still behind. Which one was that?
So
First
you
bullet
have
for the 17th.
We're
Right.
supposed to, for
So-
November 17th?
Yes,
Town Street.
flip that
So
with something,
that would be a
Oh.
public forum.
move that later.
Okay, so November 17th would be having the listening session. So then November 4th would be reviewing any materials and format for that.
Yeah, so I mean, we have to check to make sure that
That's open.
Powers is available and
Yeah.
blah, 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 all the stuff. But,
We
I'm
did
not available
surveys.
November 4th. I just want to, I'm going to be out of town.
okay,
Are we potentially doing the survey as a follow-up to that public
I think that could
session?
work.
we
can we
could,
That's what
Yeah, we
do-
could.
That's what we usually do. We give them a week after the session to file
I
a,
think that.
go
would be
to this
easier.
QR code and do this nice
Yeah, I think that would
thing
be
survey, and then we can get
Yeah.
people who can't come to the meeting.
The thing is that right after November 17th, you have Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah. So we'll give them,
2 weeks, but
give
it's
them
also,
to,
it's like bad, but it's also means people have time, so
Yeah.
it's like, it's kind of a.
while you're chomping on your turkey, think about the tree out in the backyard.
Some
right.
people will find it
So-
easy, some people.
Yeah, I mean, we can worry about how long it needs to stay out because of the holiday, but I just feel like if we don't
That's right.
get out there and start to talk to people, I mean, this
Yeah.
is,
We have to see it, how it's also.
yeah,
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 we'll
we
check.
will
Yeah.
take care of that. Everyone okay with this?
I think it's a great idea.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good.
So then, so that change to our schedule will have the effect of what, so still on December 15th, we could present to the select board, because I think it'd be nice to have had the public feedback and digest and then bring that along with our plan as it stands then. And then we're gonna need, so community listening session was scheduled for January 12th, and I think we'll probably need to at least flip that with the 21st, if not the 2nd of February. Just to,
Right, more time between. them.
well, we need more time between so that we can
Yeah.
act on some of the things and,
Yeah.
you know, hopefully we'll have like regulations work and we
Yeah.
need to certainly make sure that we've got all of these questions squared with legal. So
But it is essentially, the first one is a listening session, so.
the first one is a listening.
Yeah, so
I mean,
really
we
don't
need
have
to,
to.
well, we need to do a
provide the survey
presentation
questions and-
on,
yeah.
on where we're headed.
Yeah,
You know.
like a bullet point structure of what the likely.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I think that it's
Principles.
fair to say, like, here's what we think the definition of a tree yard will be, and here's what it means to you.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate we will need to bring to that first meeting anything in terms of quantifying potential, operational cost, or is that later?
That's kind of the last thing I
Okay,
would
no, I'm
think.
We
just
need time to
asking.
figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that can wait quite a.
We can say that it's critical and we're looking at it,
Right,
and that's,
okay,
It has to
but
be
we're
said.
not expected to have any, okay.
I think we want to give people a basic understanding. I mean, frankly, for the very first community session, probably the simpler, the better. Here's what the tree yard is. Here's how it might affect you. Here's how it might be different across town, what some of the issues might be. Here are some of the things that we're considering or looking at, or issues that have been brought up to us so far. And we're working on them, and that's it. I mean, we don't have to get into
What else, yeah.
No, I was
how
thinking
much
when we go in
the
front of
the dollar amount will be to
I mean, for select
mitigate.
board.
things like
Yes,
that.
I was thinking of the select board, I wasn't thinking of the community.
The update to the select board will be an update. It'll be like, this is where we are right now.
Okay.
And this is where we're thinking we're going but it's a status report. It's
Okay.
not any different.
In terms of the listening session, I'm assuming that part of when we update the public on where we're at is to emphasize that this is really aimed at dealing with, because, people are interested, they need to know what the pre-art is and all that, but really, it's not the homeowners that are sitting there that are gonna be most affected. it's going to be the developers and the builders and the contractors. And so I'm wondering if we can somehow get the word out to them. Do we want to get the word out to them to try to see if we can get some of them?
Absolutely, I think we
I
need
think we
to
should.
invite
Yeah.
developers and landscapers.
And so how do we
would-
do that?
We
That's,
would just put them on the list.
On the mailing list.
We'll have Ed call it.
from his Rolodex.
Well, we had the,
Kurt should do it.
we invited all the contractors to the large house. It was, I think there were 200, I think there.
Wow.
200 for something like that. They've
Wow.
Done
No,
work.
we
in town.
invited.
We invited, they
invited
didn't come.
200.
but
So
we
there's a
There was
list
like-
then.
we
There were
had-
like
So you
12
have
in
the
the room.
list, okay.
I tried to say 12,
It was good. It was
not,
good
not,
show.
yeah, it
That's
was
good.
not shabby.
Correct.
No, that's
But
good,
there's
I
definitely
think.
data for
There's a
all.
list though of
Need 'em
all the
from
folks
vast
who
majority.
regularly work
Probably
in
both of
town
them,
and
yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. a dozen.
landscapers, everything, so we'll invite
So
them.
we want to make sure to invite them so that they're,
Except for the onesie twosies, I mean, we have pretty much an established
Yeah.
portfolio. of
Yeah.
builders out there.
that's
Okay, good, I feel,
Carney
I feel
Grandmont's in the
much
world.
better about that, thank you
And
for,
the actual tree guys, like Carney Grandma.
How do you-
yeah.
Right now, we're doing operating and capital budget submissions, they're doing like a week.
Yeah.
So if we enact this, do we want to put in a staff or some sort of funding request? No, not
I
yet.
I
think,
don't think so.
I think we,
I just want to make sure. it's- we're
Yeah,
about
no,
to
I mean,
miss
I think that we-
opportunity if don't
we
do it
talked
now.
about that,
I know,
and, but I think
I know.
probably we can't. First of all, we don't
We
have
still-
enough information to do it, but secondly, I think we need to make sure that we enact the bylaw, and then in the year subsequent, like if it passes town meeting and everything, that, I think we would want to have potential financial information available to town meeting for the bylaw passage. If we enact this, you know, this is what we think it will cost Department of Forestry to
We've been building
to
the
maintain
product,
it
what
to
is the
a, to a
process?
X level.
Yep.
And so we would recommend that we plan for a capital investment, you know, or staffing investment rather. And then that would go in your budget for the following year, if you decided that that was a priority that that the Department of Forestry or the DPW wanted to include.
You don't include the budget with the motion for the town meeting.
That's just not
Not the way
the
it's done.
process, but I do think that it's fair to say to town meeting.
Yeah.
If we're gonna enforce this, or if we're gonna like do at least the upfront portion, like it may be that enforcement is on complaint. But if we're gonna do this
Then we do,
process
yeah.
change, so that we do this upfront to every permit, this is what we anticipate it will cost. That will probably mean that DPW needs to add X number of FTEs next year, whatever. And so we need to build that into our decision about whether or not we pass this bylaw.
Even though we're not. voting
Town
on the
meeting
actual
doesn't,
appropriation.
town meeting doesn't do budgets.
Mm.
They,
Yeah.
like, if it's department heads who do budgets, so it will be up to DPW and forestry, et cetera, building commissioner to allocate for this, but this is, I think, why we are talking with them now about whether or not this is something that they can support and how they would want to support it, so that they can make those choices.
My worry is just if we enact it in the fiscal year next year, we don't have staff, then I'm gonna have to basically take myself off of my.
Right,
job.
I get it, but I
Start
think we
doing
can
this,
also
so
adjust, like,
I just don't
so
wanna be
if
too
we
far
take it
behind
to,
like Wellesley, where they said, we didn't get staff, so we don't really care.
right,
We
So-
just rubber stamp everything. So I
so
just wanna
we
make sure
would-
we're mindful of time and staffing and.
yeah, so
what
the
it's gonna
bylaw
take
doesn't
do
have
it
to
right.
be active, like kick in immediately upon
Right.
passage. We can set a date for that to kick in, and that could be, you know, at the start of the fiscal year, or I'm sure that we can get some advice on how best to time that and how to fit it in, but I don't think budget allocations don't go to town meeting for staffing. I mean, like as part of an article
Right, so I think
that we sponsor, as opposed to a financial warrant article as
Right.
part of the budget.
at a minimum, my opinion, at minimum, we should identify the potential operational,
Yeah.
changes,
Absolutely.
requirements, but we need to substantially justify whatever it is based on X, Y, Z.
But
So
we also need to make sure that we mitigate those impacts as much as possible. We already have some changes from the stormwater plan, the large house is going in May to town meeting, and there will be some crossover. And so adding trees to the plan, you know, I think that there are probably some ways that we can collect all of
Synergies.
these impacts and put them together. So maybe it's,
One
maybe it's one person across 3 departments who
Mhm.
is, you know, responsible for this and not
Right.
just, and also, I mean, honestly, maybe it's someone who's more junior than you. And
Yeah, I think we heard from
It
you,
doesn't
they
make a
haven't
whole
had
lot of
staff
sense.
that basically checks boxes, plan complete, submission complete.
That's
Yeah,
And
so-
it goes to Mark for review, so there's a lot of like
A lot of
admin staff
steps.
that could be done. to-
Yeah.
No.
So that's why I was asking, so you anticipate at the town meeting, when is the town meeting scheduled now?
You mean October, this October?
We're
Well,
going, we're planning this for next October.
That's
A
what
year
I'm saying,
from
so
this
the
October.
town meeting is next year.
Yeah.
So we have enough time.
Yeah, I mean, we still have to hand this off to the select board well in advance of that, because they need time to do their vetting and public hearings on that end, and like, it's a double process,
gets drafted.
basically, every time you go. But we do have time,
Okay,
not a ton, less than we think. Okay,
sorry.
so, all right, so we'll leave the schedule there for now, and then we can reassess as we go. The last thing we need to talk about, I think, is the harvest fair, so take it away, Erica.
We need more bodies. In particular, we have someone for every shift. In a couple of cases, we have 2 people. We really need someone to work with me at the last shift because I cannot break down the tent by myself. So I need another person. I know everybody's busy. I know everybody travels. I know, you know, but if there's any way somebody could sign up for at least the last shift, just to help me get everything put down, and if possible, to give company to one of the other people that are signed up for one of the middle shifts. I don't, the Sign Up Genius is still open. Do you want me to give a kind of description of what we're gonna do, or?
Yeah, and just as a, yes, please do.
Okay,
Sorry.
so we're gonna have a table, we're gonna put a canopy over it, and we're gonna do leaf rubbings with the kids and hang the leaf rubbings and get some attention that way and try to draw people in. Meanwhile, we have QR codes, 2 different QR codes. One that we can direct people to sign up for through the notify me for our agenda and
For this committee's
for this
work.
committee's work, and the other one will take them to the web page where they can see the minutes and the review of our accomplishments and where we're at and all that. So the goal basically is to get the adults involved by bringing the kids in. And so we're trying to make some, you know, have some books out on the table for people to peruse, but basically we're just trying to excite people about and inform them of the topic.
Can we check about Powers Call for November 17th? Because if we know by the Harvest Fest that we can, that we have that date, we can put up a big sign, like, come to the.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Session on the date at Powers Call. Like, that would be a nice
Right.
way to get the word out. about
Well, that would be
I think
like
that's a
this week,
great
though.
idea.
We'd have to do that this
Right,
week.
but it's really just a question of reserving the room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because we don't have to have anything else set
okay.
except for that.
So if you can, please sign up to help.
I think I'll,
Like, just,
I think you can count on me. I'm not sure yet the timing, but
okay,
definitely noon time and in the afternoon now.
okay, that'd be great. We'll muscle down that
Yeah.
pop-up tent.
Great, and
Okay.
if we find that we really need extra folks, and we can't, because like I know I'm away.
Yeah, you're
this
away,
weekend,
yeah.
Unfortunately, we could potentially call on Green Needham.
I'm
or
sure I
one
can
of our community
grab one of my
partners.
friends from
Exactly.
another table
I don't-
somewhere to help
yeah.
if
Sure.
need be. I mean,
People help each other.
yeah. I know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are gonna be representing other,
This is the
things.
problem with the volunteer situation.
Yeah.
Is that everyone who volunteers is also volunteering
Yes.
40 other places.
Exactly.
So a lot of
so,
cross purposes. Is there anything else that you need?
okay. Okay, thank you.
Do you have the
Um,
materials and everything you need?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get crayons from you, just bring them with you.
Any colors? I mean. if
Oh,
you use
all
colors-
variety of colors. Just try to, if you can, take the papers off, but if not, don't worry about it. We'll do
How
it
many
then.
do you want?
Whatever you got.
So
Okay.
if anyone's got like old broken crayons that your kids no longer want to
I have a
use,
ton.
those would
Yeah.
be perfect.
Yeah, so, so you can bring, I'll have to make arrangements. If you have anything to, contribute, let me know and I'll either come pick them up or you can drop them off at my house or something like
Just give
that.
me your number.
Okay. And that's it. I mean, the rest of the stuff I'll just buy, just a few things. Tablecloth, clothespins.
You have tables?
I have tablecloths.
The
We have
ta-
a table, John's providing a table.
The town,
I
yeah,
have a super duper bright yellow, brand new tablecloth.
okay, let's do that then.
It's plastic,
Very
but maybe a bad look, but it'll.
Well, I
get
was gonna,
attention.
I'm gonna go to Michael's anyway. I'll look and see if they have a green one, you know.
I have a
that'll-
green one.
You have a green tablecloth for one of those?
Okay, fabulous.
Okay,
Is it a
excellent.
Something off your list to buy.
I'm
What else
assuming
is
it's a
on your
6 foot,
list?
yeah.
6 foot table.
What else is on the buy list?
Clothespins, that's it. Just some way to attach the kids' lovely
Okay.
drawings.
I have little clothes.
How many do you have?
The box brings about 15.
15?
50.
50.
They're little, no, they're tiny, they're not the big ones.
All right.
Do you need leaves?
I was just gonna go into the town forest like the day before and get leaves.
Oh, I have some sassafras leaves. They're-
Ooh,
they
those are
have- they
great.
have
I love
great shapes and
sassafras. Yeah.
motifs,
And mittens. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I
fantastic.
mean, I don't think, I mean, yes, that would be great. They're not gonna be all colored and everything, but they'll still, it's not about that. It's about the leaf, the vein patterns and things like that.
Okay, so I will encourage you, through you potentially, not to be shy, to resend the doodle poll. so that
Okay,
we
well, she
get-
did just send it today.
Okay, so sign up. And
And
also,
believe me, I understand that people, you know, but if you can find an hour, that would be great.
and how do you want people to contact you if they have crayons or clothespins or whatever else? Do you want to send out, like, we can give her email?
Yeah, I'm trying to watch, I don't remember. Is it on Sign Up Genius?
Is it? I might have.
If it's not, I can just include it in the email to.
Um, I don't think I put it on the sign up, Genus.
Okay, all right, I will throw your email in there to you.
Great.
Do we know where we are in the field?
No, they still haven't
Okay, they haven't
announced
signed.
yet, yeah.
All
I
right.
usually do it at like.
So last thing, we sort of went out of order. Let's have an update from the Stormwater Committee on where you guys are and.
Sure, so, we had our public well, we had a listening session on August 5th. Got good feedback, mostly like very technical questions, like, and people are interested in water. You know, away from the property, basically, you know, they don't want it to be flooded. And
And
we had the,
there were a few questions that had to be deferred to tree, like that, this is not the tree bylaw, but there is a tree
Yeah.
bylaw.
well, and also DPW, you know, about, roadway maintenance.
Yeah.
Drainage infrastructure. So the bylaw doesn't cover those things. The bylaw really makes sure that water that lands on someone's property stays as much as possible on their property. So it doesn't go into the road or onto a neighbor's property. And so we had the public hearing at the select board. I think that was pretty comprehensive as well. There were several questions, but I think we addressed them all. In terms of trees, the provision that we had in the bylaw was recommended by our building commissioner to plant 3 2-inch caliper trees per infiltration system. The select board voted to have those, that specific provision put in the regulations instead. In any event, it's going to be superseded by whatever this committee does, which is why I was thinking, like, is there a planting provision that we should include in our bylaw?
But this will be enforced before ours gets enforced.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whatever,
So it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
have public reaction to this.
Yeah.
Do you have a live date for this bylaw? Is it just 30 days after passage, or do you have a date that you're intending to set it?
no, the date is whenever the attorney general approves it.
Thank you. And Oscar, do you want to give us the brief Update from the large house committee.
Sure. The, recently had a committee or a community meeting, which was a chance for us to present all of the material that we are essentially refining as a set of guidelines for how we would propose to the planning board the kinds of changes we would make to the large house measuring components, which is height, FAR, and coverage. We talked about lot coverage, talked about setbacks a little bit. And then we also are going to be proposing that we change the FAR definition. All of that was, we had a good turnout, and we also had some people online. I think the lessons learned is that we seem to be moving in the right direction. It was kind of cool. I think we had 30 something people there and 30 something like that online. So we had, I think, a total of 60-ish. And we had this instantaneous survey, which was a very cool thing. And I'd recommend it. It didn't seem like it was too challenging.
No, that's fine.
But it was nice. But again, this is totally non-scientific, and it was a small sampling size. So, but it was interesting because we did ask some very, very basic questions. Are we on the right track? And do people still feel this is something that we should be doing? And just essentially the basics of the assumptions that we've been carrying as a committee on what we think we should be doing. And so I think that was supportive enough that we are continuing to do the work we have to do. To the next step is basically the fiscal impact. And that consultant is on board. So we're hoping that all that information is going to come to us sometime in October. We have a kind of a final handoff that's November to the planning board. So we're on track, a lot of work, still to do.
I would just say as a one of the online people,
Yeah.
if you just listened to the comments by the people who were there, that the comments they were making, it might have given you the impression that there was less kind of buy-in for it. But then when you did the survey, it was very clear that anybody who answered the survey, that you guys weren't going in the right direction. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, a lot of times the negative comments are the ones that stick out, and the ones that where there is no answer, it just gives an impression that there's a lot more dissent or whatever than there is, because it's easy for people to show their support with an instantaneous survey, but it's harder for them to get up and stand up and go to a mic and make a comment, So I just thought that was an interesting, good addition.
Yeah. Just based on people's phones.
There was an
QR
online
code.
survey, you go on and you answer a question and
But each
it's
person used their
tabulated
cell
right
phone
there in
too.
front of you,
Yeah.
yeah.
So and then
It's
it's
delightful.
frozen, and they use bars, not pie charts. So it was very obvious. So you can see these are all growing as all the responses came in.
Yeah, very cool.
Is the objective of the scope of the work that you're doing now to refine the regs so that there is control in the future over build out?
Over tear downs.
It's
tear
to
down.
control for the size of the bulk of the house.
Okay.
So it's worth to go look at the information we produced. We did some comparisons with 3 other towns to see
Okay.
what the size of the houses being built in Needham versus Concord was.
Okay, gotcha.
The presentation is fantastic and I highly recommend that you
I'm
take a
gonna
look.
go look.
Yeah, the slides are really clear. There's pictures of like what the reductions would look like.
We did models.
So-
Yeah.
3 different reduction
Instead of,
sizes.
the FAR is changing because we only count so much floor area on the first and second floor. So a lot of folks have been saying, just count it all and just change the number to reflect that. And that's more or less what's happening, but the pictures
The visual.
give a really
helpful.
good understanding of what.
And this is
the
mostly for
objective is.
SRB.
It's only a
Only
Oh,
for SRB.
Yeah.
It's only for the biggest houses on the smallest lots.
I mean, the impact of it is to be
determined, and there are no set numbers that we as a committee have in our heads now. We're waiting to see what the reaction was to how much reduction people felt, so the survey covered that, which was interesting too, so.
Yeah.
All right, so I know it's,
Thank you.
it's getting late. Do we have any comments before we close up? Okay, so, remember to sign up for the Harvest Fair. And if someone wants to make a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye,
Okay, night.
ayes have it.
It's,
Yeah.